Hello everyone and welcome to a special episode of By the Numbers. It's the 100th episode.
And I'm Scott. Immediately Anders is gone.
Fucking
This is what I deal with. This is what I have to deal with.
He's gone.
There he is.
Are you drunk?
It just crashed. I'm so
Took
sorry.
a shit on all my cameras doing it.
Right. Should we do it again?
Do it again.
We'll edit it. We'll edit it in post. It'll be perfect.
You have to introduce him as the male feminist, Anders B. Loom.
Please don't do that.
Yeah, he's up to something, isn't he? Right. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to a special episode of By the Numbers. It's the 100th episode. It's the end of year special. Yes, we've done 100 of these and somehow haven't been taken off the air with Thorin's pontifications. And as such, we decided we're going to do an end of year review where we're going to talk about all the best bits, the worst bits of the 2018. And of course, we brought in some special guests for it. The boys from On Fire. If that's still a thing, right? I feel like I'm out the loop. You guys still on firing it?
Yeah, all the time.
Good. What's he on for, mate? Right, it is, of course, the male feminist Anders B. Loom. And the little Yoda-esque sex machine, Jason O'Toole. So how are you guys doing? Good.
I'm doing good. I think I see your chat going off about my mic, so I think I'm gonna swap that out real quick.
Yeah. Do that. We could have just done this before, couldn't we? Instead of talking about days of green rooms gone by. But
the mic sounded fine. You all said the mic sounded fine, so
I said it sounded muffled.
Sounds more like a
immediately fucking breaks and bows to the demands of like 4 people in Twitch chat. Who are you fucking dust at like Northern Rain or something? What do you want? Let me get after Smiths. Where's he at?
Right, and of course Duncan's here. Duncan actually helped set this up. It's his first contribution to the show in 100 episodes. He actually got the guest. Power to you, Duncan. And, of course, it is sponsored. The channel is sponsored by Rivalry.gg. You can go to rivalry.gg/RLS, qualify for up to $350 of VIP bonuses, and you can place bets in a safe, ethical environment, which, of course, none of us do, because that would be inappropriate. But I handled that pretty well. Right, then.
We don't like ethics.
Well, that's definitely
unless they're in journalism, gaming journalism.
Then we definitely do.
I care about them. So.
Right, so let's there's a couple of news stories that we should touch on.
Anders is already a little bit worried, isn't he? Now?
Yeah. Well, look, man, like I don't know why I disagreed to come on a fucking show because this cunt's trying to turn himself into an Instagram model at the moment. Like every time I look at his Instagram, it's just him lifting a kettlebell and like 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 that's all he talks about now. Do you even talk about Counter-Strike anymore, or just turning yourself into a fucking, rounded Ricky Gervais, dude?
Yeah, you're all about to find out. I mean, it's just going to be me talking about my supplements. Don't worry about it.
Can we hear the story about the tie that you're wearing at the moment? Did your son give you that for Christmas? That'd be the only acceptable reason to be wearing that at the moment.
My wife did. I really like these things. You can sort of change them.
Sequins.
Yeah,
it's like the ones they get on those women get them on like pillows where they go from one color to another. They're quite. It's quite a thing. Is though I'm with Anders. It's quite sort of satisfying to do it, to just move it up and down. It's maybe like an ASMR thing.
Especially if you've ingested, some
LSD,
something like that,
and you just go, "Holy shit! I'm changing the fabric of the universe with my hands. What am I doing?"
Well,
it's like DMT or something, Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
good. I feel like I'm on DMT trying to fucking host this bullshit, man. Like,
buckle up, Richard. Here we go.
Yeah, right. Okay, so let's talk about the 2 news stories I want to get into, and then we'll do the end of year review. Guys, you can just chip in with your thoughts as and when. Obviously, a big, no pun intended, roster move was going on, and that looks like XANTARES has been fully confirmed to join Big, while Nex is going to drop out and have some surgery. I believe he's getting a skills transplant. Some skilled kid died in a tragic accident. He's getting his skills put into him. So maybe you can come back one day and play at a subpar level. Can't wait. But anyway, XANTARES leaving the space. Whatever. So I told you, I'm working through a fucking hangover. I said it, like, guys. I gotta go host a Fortnite event. Y'all better be fucking nice to me. You know what I mean? I'm gonna be out of the cool club forever.
What are you gonna be talking about?
In a relay sports.
You're gonna be talking about like plunger grappling hooks and shopping carts?
Mate, I even tried to play that game the other day, right? Because I wanted to know what the fuck I was talking about. So I've been playing it. I logged on. The map's giant now. There's like snow and shit everywhere. It was like really confusing to me. And I'm like running around like, this isn't so bad, you know, third person shooters, this is okay. And then a cunt in a fucking aeroplane fucking just swooped down and just like, what's that about? Aeroplanes? It's bollocks, isn't it? Anyway, Richard has been removed from his own broadcast for, there's swords in it and shit. It's crazy now. Anyway, so XANTARES has left the Space Soldiers, guys, and he's joined Big. Next is going to be removed temporarily while he gets surgery, wink, wink. And a lot of people were speculating it might be Smooya that gets dropped because he's intimated as such multiple times.
And he's a bit of a cunt.
Absolutely, and his form has dropped off the boil a little bit. But I'm actually pretty happy with this move. I mean, there was a lot of talk about XANTARES even potentially going to, I think it was misplaced talk, but going further up the fucking food chain, like teams like FaZe were supposedly in the mix. He'd certainly been linked with them, whether it was just community thinking or genuine interest. And he's ended up at Big, and I think this is a great move for Big. I think this actually kind of puts them squarely back into that top 10 just in terms of firepower. If XANTARES can maintain the level of form that he had in Space Soldiers towards the end of their time, I think Big actually could have a very good 2019. What do you guys think?
I'm super excited for XANTARES. I wouldn't put him in top 10 just yet. Although I guess I haven't actually thought through a top 10, so maybe they could slot in there towards the bottom. I think the exciting thing is I think XANTARES was really capped out. I think he hit his ceiling of where he could go individually in Space Soldiers. I think as a team they were pretty much capped out, which also kind of holds him down. I think the more interesting part about this is they're intimating and saying that when Nex is like recovered from his surgery properly, that they might try like a 6-man lineup, which I think is super weird. As far as I know, it hasn't been tried in Global Offensive. It was tried a number of times in 1.6 with a bunch of teams back in the day, and I think that's kind of an interesting concept to see how that's going to work. But XANTARES is obviously super talented, super good. I think that's a huge pickup, and I mean that's great for Big to find. I just don't know how much it's going to help. We're gonna have to. There's still, I feel like, going to be a strategic based team. I don't think they can win with Guppy not utilizing his brain and just going for firepower.
Yeah,
guys, fill that dead air, Anders.
I'm doing my best. Listen, I think it can be analyzed both ways, right? I definitely think no matter what, it's going to be great for XANTARES to be around God B, no matter what. Like I think from just in terms of following his career, that's going to be valuable time spent no matter what, no matter how long the ride is. I feel like, but from Big's point of view, I don't really know. Like that's very hard to say. I feel like there are some people in that team as well. Like I think Tabson in many ways has been one of the most entertaining players to watch, especially towards the end of the year. But unfortunately, the style that he plays, it's so much fun. I really do enjoy it, but at the same time, I feel like it's one that I've just never seen last for forever. Like if you play that aggressively and the impact comes from playing, that hardcore, eventually, people start to read it. They're gonna look for the smokes. They're gonna be expected for you to become running through while flashbangs are throwing in. Like they're gonna see it coming. So, I feel like that team is gonna have some other problems right around the corner, even if it is a firepower upgrade. So I don't know. It's very hard for me to say, but I think from his career individually, it's a great move. I really like it. So thumbs up, I guess.
Duncan?
I think the problem I have with this one is like generally I think it's a good move for everyone. Like for XANTARES, as Jason said, like if you're stuck in Space Soldiers, like it's just unrealistic to ever think you're going to go anywhere because people know, for example, now that the team doesn't have a lot of money as an org. There's been all the disputes that the players have had with the org. They never used to qualify for that many lands anyway, actually, to be fair. They were often playing at tier 2 lands, or they would do the odd, upset run through an online qualifier, and then usually they didn't do that much at the LAN itself. Like, they're not a team you see in the playoffs of big tournaments, So generally, I always thought Space Soldiers was, mad overrated team. I get why people liked them. They were very hype. Like, if you want a team to have a one-off upset, they were a great team for that. Them and Tai Lu probably going to be the two best for that, where if they just completely go off, if XANTARES and Calyx go off, for sure they can win a best of one against someone. But they were never a real team for me. Like, they were never going to actually win a series against a quality, top 10 ranked team or whatever. So I think it's good for him that he gets to move on and I actually see, what the limits of his skill set are. My problem is this. on the surface, it's a good move for Big. Like for me, I've stressed it the whole time they've had this lineup with Smooya. Like I think they lacked some firepower because Smooya himself is very erratic. He's very up and down. Tabson's a very good player.
Yeah.
But then that means you've kind of got like an average of like, what you're basically doing is like, one of Smooya next must turn up in this game for us to have like a decent team, and then to have a very good team, you probably needed all three, and that's just, it's never going to happen. Like Nex has had so many problems in his career, especially in big games, that like really it was just on Smooya. Like Smooya and Tabson had to go ham in that team for my money, and I think that's unreasonable to Smooya actually, to expect him to just take over the game every time. So when you consider the
well, he was doing it
for
such a long period of time, wasn't he? So
sure.
Yeah.
But when you consider the context of the team, like the only area that I see it as a negative in, I think it's way better. Like I'm definitely excited to see what Godby could do because XANTARES is a weapon in that sense. But I have my questions kind of maybe alluding to what Anders was saying as to just how much he could actually be molded. Because I personally got the sense in Space Soldiers, I don't think they sat around and were like really like GMs of a sports team. Like, how would we play with this personnel? I think instead they were just like, right, this is how XANTARES plays, this is how the rest of us plays. We just play like fifth gear, no stopping, through the wall, or we crashed. Like that was it. So unfortunately, if you're going to put a player into a Godby team, you probably want him to be someone who can like listen to Godby's philosophy, be shaped into a specific role. I don't really know if XANTARES has shown any ability to do that, quite frankly. So my main issue is this. I think overall it'll be better for everyone, but I don't know if it'll be what people are imagining, which is like, wow, take XANTARES out, the best stops that Space Soldiers had, plug him into, you know, Big. Imagine how sick the firepower will be. Because it'll be like, well, how effective will his firepower be, though? Like, I can definitely see in teams you can have one player who doesn't play the style of the rest of the team. But I would just put it like this. The big test for me now is on Godby. Because if everyone who loves to talk shit on some of the old players I like, Existence, etc., what excuse would you have for Godby's team not being amazing now? He's got Tabson, best German player, amazing individual player. Smooya's pretty good for a fucking rookie. XANTARES is supposed to have mad aim. He's got pretty good raw skills. Godby's got Tizzy in as his support guy, and Godby's in the game himself. What excuse do you have now? You should be in a top 5 team in the world.
I don't think there's going to be a problem fitting XANTARES in, just because I would imagine that XANTARES finally getting an opportunity to be on like a legit team that's a contender, that's made it deep into tournaments, that's actually taken out some big dogs with relative consistency. I think he's going to be so happy to get out of Space Soldiers, getting a proper salary, an opportunity to go some of these big events. We know they're going to get invited to ESL Cologne because they did this year. So you have to imagine that XANTARES is just mentally going to take this opportunity and just say, I'll do whatever the fuck anyone wants. Just let me be a mad fragger.
Oh, I could believe he'll do that. Yes, it's whether or not he'll be as effective.
He'll actually be able to do it. Yeah. Well, I think if you're going to get someone like XANTARES, I don't think you change him too much, right? Like you're still going to have that guy be like your point man, your mad fragger, right? Because you're going to want someone like Tabson to be a little bit more passive. Let you know XANTARES play his style, especially at the start when they begin to like kind of fit him in and mold him into the lineup. I think it'll be a pretty soft transition for him, at least at the beginning.
Right. Well, look, let's talk about the other bit of news. Good news if you're a French Counter-Strike fan. It's over. Happy has been benched by Vitality. And
fucking hell.
I know, right?
He got benched for every chin the cunt's had. He got benched from Envious. Now he's been benched from this team. Fucking hell. It's unreal, isn't it? The thing is, I said this on Twitter. I would have made a joke now about, well, it's about time he stopped stealing checks. He was on the bench and he's going to keep fucking stealing checks without even playing in the game now. I guess in many ways that's a fair deal. Anyway, back to you, Richard.
Yeah, no worries.
News.
Smooth. I did link you a picture, Sam, and I think this picture, they got to retake. No, but they got to retake this photo. They can't allow this.
How does he not message someone and say,
yeah,
do not ever use this picture of me. Do not ever.
You know when you get a fucking leather couch and it's seen better days and the edge of it starts to like fray a little bit. That's what that chin looks like. Look at it.
No, I mean, I couldn't.
That fucking
chin. It's everything. It's like the way the glasses are slightly like fucking skew with one eye's kind of closed. It's like, holy fucking moly, like that is a bad photograph. You've got to do something about that. Anyway, he's got
Listen, wait, we've all been there. There's a picture of me from one of the early events I did.
He looks like he's just permanently on painkillers. Look at him. Just look at him. Just look at his gun.
Why is he gonna be an behind that?
I know, look at him. I bet his arms are just scratched to fuck down below. That's why it's a headshot only. He's just fucking
Take it
boy
down.
is zapping up this motherfucker.
Pretty-
Hit the
Timestamp
button, Rich. Hit the button.
Pretty unreasonable to just bang on somebody we all know and talk to, isn't it? But what fucking assholes?
He's
they are.
fucking tweaking
Anyway,
this kid.
Exactly.
Anyway.
He's fucking tweaking off that 2CB, man.
right. I mean, I think this was a move that was just to bring it back to normality.
Yeah, exactly.
I think this was a move that was always likely to happen. I mean, I thought in some of the bigger games that Vitality have played, like Happy was really exposed as not being a top tier player anymore, and in particular in the I think it was the minor qualifier with against G2 or WESG qualifier, my bad. Where they played G2 in a best of 3, and pretty much Happy's terrible performance was really the difference maker in that. Now, his play style, like he'd always had that lurking play style. I think this is how you know how bad it's got for him, because like when Happy used to play this lurking play style and get these big scores, we always used to say he's baiting, to get these kills. That was like sort of the perception of how he played. Well, now he's still playing that same play style, but he's not getting the kills at all. His numbers are very, very average.
Go on.
No, jump on. I was just going to say, like, ultimately, Vitality know that there is a deficiency in this team, and it's pretty much all about Ziwu at the moment. Everyone else is doing okay. Ziwu's god tier, but Happy is just massive, massive drag factor.
Well, I think this is, I don't even necessarily think it's Vitality. I think that's kind of a good example of the problem in the entirety of the French scene, because it's the one scene that we've seen have been like the most resistant to bringing in new talent, whether they just don't want to bring them in or whether they just don't have it. I'm not quite sure what the issue is in that scene, but Happy reminds me of where Hiko was a couple of years ago, where he just never adapted his play style, where he kind of kept up that style that made him famous, kept up that style where, remember, Happy was incredible when LDLC won the DreamHack Major. He was, I mean, that's the thing about that play style, what we call him baiting, is when he's getting kills and it's working, you say, oh, this lurk style is so impressive. But if you're not going to get those kills, then you are just baiting and you are being useless. And the French scene has been in such a rut for this entire year that it is just, you have to be able to change your style. And I think we're seeing it out of all the players. Kenny hasn't been able to adjust and change his style. Happy hasn't changed his style. NBK has worked on it. Shox has had some struggles with it. All these old legends of the French scene, they're stuck like a level below some of the new blood that's coming in, because it feels like they just aren't working as hard to kind of adjust and adapt and change to the new meta that's coming out, whether it's as an individual or as a team. And I think this is just a product and kind of like the result of that, where we just have seen the French scene stagnate, and you have to start cutting these guys out and bringing in, the younger talent, the guys that are taking a risk on, the Zywus. I think Alex has proven himself well enough that he deserves this shot. And that's also why you saw them picking up guys like Devil and Body and the likes over the past couple of years.
Yeah, trying to develop something new.
And
well,
those didn't work necessarily.
Yeah, well, oh no, definitely not. Sanders, I'll bring you in here. Alex is the replacement for Happy. I mean, like, I don't think he can do much of a worse job than what I saw, when I watched Vitality play. But I'll be honest, I was a little bit underwhelmed by the pickup. He's somebody for me. Like, for starters, I always thought that LDLC team was kind of a little bit overhyped.
Yeah.
And I know Alex had some particularly, decent performances within that team, and obviously part of the Existence alumni. But again, he's never really stood out to me as somebody that I think can go and play in that top tier. Is that just ignorance on my part?
In terms of sort of brand, even with everything we've just said about Happy, in terms of sort of brand factor, he's still got a lot more than Alex does, right? So, for Alex is such a new person in the scene in that sense that it's going to be much harder to judge. But I kind of agree in a sense. Like, I don't think it can get really that much worse. So I'm all for giving him a chance. I just realized we were talking about all this. The last time that I remember that the French scene was doing really well was actually before people started picking up the concept of, that everything should be a little bit more professional, when they would go to sort of the nightclubs at 2 a.m. and stuff like that. So maybe that's what they need to bring back, go to a disco every once in a while, in between events.
Disco.
Yeah,
Disco every once in a while.
You can see Anders is a fucking party animal, isn't it? Like, not only is he dressed like one of the fucking village people, he fucking also talking about disco. The 70s never ended.
I don't know what the kids are doing these days. I'm just saying.
Get your sequins on, go down to the disco.
Yeah, that's what they're doing.
I actually think there's an appalling amount of talent that's stuck in the French scene. That makes me really angry. I don't even think it's funny anymore. I think it's just absurd. I want some of them to escape. Like, I'm happy that Kyo, is off somewhere, and Existence is now saying, well, maybe he wants to leave to, like, maybe if they all leave France, maybe that'll be the solution eventually. There will be no French counter.
Wait a minute. So for that little miniature thing where it's like Anders gets angry, his little fucking segment we're going to create, his whole thing was like, I'm appalled by the amount of talent in the French scene. Maybe if all the legends could leave the French country and or scene and make room for these young guys. Like,
listen.
what sort of mad... You are leftist, aren't you? What are you doing? All the old white men should be kicked out of the French scene. Where's the diversity? Where's the young people?
Told you, mate. He's a fucking male feminist.
I know. He is. He's become one.
That was exactly my point. Yes. No.
Yeah.
I listen. I just.
You wearing a yellow jacket next?
Yeah. I just.
All right. But
too early for the politics. Yep.
All right. Guess we'll swerve back from that one. We'll get back to Counter-Strike, shall we?
No, I just I don't know. I think I've said this on Twitter the other day. I really think that there is enough, there's enough talent in the French scene to make a team good enough to take down, I think, even Astralis. I think there's enough raw talent there. I just don't know what the hell they're doing. Like, it is really upsetting.
I do want to say one thing in defense of Happy, so that we're not just all piling on him. I know it's an insane concept. In this crowd.
I just want to see how you're going to manage it. Fucking hell, boy. Invented a potential mushroom machine while you do it. Fucking hell,
strapping myself in. Let's go.
I outside of the personal issues that we know have plagued French scenes, there are a decent amount of French players that I have spoken to have been in those teams who have great respect for Happy's knowledge about the game and how much he knows about the game and in terms of how he plays. And a lot of them have mentioned a couple of times that he would be someone who would be a good analyst, a good coach, to talk about the game and to come up with new ideas. I think the problem comes where he actually tries to implement it. We saw with his calling style is that if he's going to be your in-game leader, it's going to be based around where he wants to lurk, which kind of, puts the other four guys down the river a little bit. And, if he's just going to be a cog in the machine, you're missing out on that knowledge, but he still doesn't necessarily have like the aggressiveness and kind of like the individual playmaking that and the flair he used to perhaps. But there is a decent amount of respect about his knowledge of the game and how he thinks about the game among the French scene still.
And I agree with you to a certain extent there, Moses. I think if he could get a time machine and go back to 2014, he'd be a wicked coach back then. But unfortunately, time really fucking stood still for him, except in photographs where he's like the fucking picture of Dorian Gray.
Reference game.
Yeah, brilliant. Love it.
The front end of a fucking human centipede with himself as the back. I mean, I just want to say this. I'm going to expand this beyond just Happy. Everyone out there who used Vitality and their lineup as like a tool to try and bash me for thinking G2 was going to be good. Fuck y'all. Like, they haven't even got 2 lands in and they've already kicked the guy. Also, y'all were telling me the whole time, look how sick the Vitality lineup is. How could G2 not want any of these players? There's only one good player in the team and he wasn't even the fucking cunt that was in any of the old French teams. Vitality, a pair of assless chaps. Looks all fun. Turn it around, nothing but ass cheeks. Nothing there. Just grab a handful and get the fuck out of my way. And by the way, how did that LDLC hype work out as well? They're really good at it because they did good at one line ever. It's like 9th place or something, you daft cunt.
Right. Good.
I'm back in the Ely green room.
I know. I can't handle it. I'm already tapping out, mate. All right. Okay. So let's get to the end of year awards, shall we? Sorry, Happy.
Wait, we've not even got started yet.
No. That was the warm up, mate. Right. Well, look. The first award I got on the list should be fairly short and sweet. Player of the year. I think this
Cold
is.
Zero. Why not? Why not Cold Zero?
Right. Okay.
Guys,
well,
what about Cold Zero?
Yeah.
You know Cold Zero? Cold Zero, Corralho, Cold Zero. Oh, sorry, is that an annoying style when someone just that over and over again with no substance whatsoever?
Who knew? I think for me, I'm just going to volunteer the one name that I'd like to think we would all agree upon, and that would be Simple, of course. Don't get me wrong, there's been many fine moments from many fine players, but I think just in terms of all-round production, super high skill ceiling. What he brings to the team he's on, where he's literally dragging, people kicking and screaming through series that they're ultimately contributing nothing to, and somehow turned a team I thought wouldn't win anything in 2018 to actually having won multiple tournaments. It's got to be simple for me, and I really don't think anyone's close.
What do the other two think, though? Because here's the thing. Obviously, there's people who are trying to make the case for Device.
Device,
right? So
yeah, sure. I think Device is the only counter argument, but even then, I think it's shaky.
I was going to say Device, and I was going to do it. I guess this kind of falls into a technicality of how you want to interpret the word. I think Simple's the best player in the world, and he was the #1 player of the year. Which kind of sounds, which kind of sounds weird now that I go on with this, but I think
Device, he's a weird guy, isn't he? But if the category was most fun guy of the year, I think
I think if you look at Device and the way that he became the center point for the Astralis machine that's been so dominant for the majority of the year, I think you also look at him, and we all knew he was a very talented and a very good opper. Last year, I think he really cemented himself, especially during stretches of the year, as the #1 opper in the game, in the world. And in terms of his MVPs, the amount of trophies, I think Device has kind of earned that even more than Simple to a certain degree.
Interesting. Anders, you're biased as fuck towards the Danes. What say you?
I just think if you look at the stuff that the other pieces that Device has to work with, and I think what Simple has to work with, I think you have to give it to Simple. I think you can't get out of it. I think what's really absurd, you think about it, is weren't both Flamey and Simple thinking about leaving, and then
they nearly went to MIBR.
I mean, Simple had agreed to leave. That's the maddest part. Yeah.
So then, how do you even make the team work after that? Like, it's the whole thing is completely absurd, isn't it? The fact that they won anything in 2018, given all of those things, is kind of mental.
No, Anders, I'm afraid you're wrong there, because I've been reliably informed by every 14-year-old living under whatever type of prefabricated anywhere in the world, that actually what you'll find is that if a star player wants to leave a team and he's some little rat who just jumps through smokes, then you have to let him go, because otherwise he might not play very well. Oh, what's that? Simple stayed, even though you already wanted to leave and agreed to leave, became the best player ever, won MVPs on the fucking losing team, and won trophies. Well, there's a lesson for us all, Corralho.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'll say that as well. One of the things that really blows my mind about, kind of where Simple is now in terms of mentality compared to where he was. I mean, we all remember Toxic Simple. We all remember, Yeah. We all remember
referenced it enough times
Germany.
Just what he said to Freiburg is alone. We won't reference it again, but
we won't reference it.
It's one of the best.
Leave it in the past. Leave it in the past, which is where it belongs. But listen, I mean, to be in a position where it looks like you're going to get a big money move to play with one of the greatest in-game leaders of all time, take your career to that sort of next level, to then have it snatched from you because, well, first of all, it's not even the buyout that was the problem. It was the fact that it was like, you've got to pay this exorbitant buyout for Flamey, because we're doing everything we can to stymie the move, which was really cynical and pathetic by Na'Vi. But that's just their MO in general as an organization. As I've said it many times, there has never been an organization make as much money from as little effort expended as that particular organization.
Can you blame them? Anders said it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, if Simple leaves, what do you have? But I mean, it's like, at the end of the day, like, it's not even about the Simple move. It's about like, oh, you got to take Flamey. Like, well, no one wants that. No one wants that right now. So, it was a really weird one. But like, then to sort of turn it around and stay in the team and have to put up with Zeus's bullshit. I think actually the real story here isn't just that Simple's the best player probably as any version of Counter-Strike has ever seen. I know that might get a few rises out of people, but it's what I believe. I think it's the fact that he's become a much more complete person. Like, his mentality has made him the perfect competitor. He doesn't seem to get fucking phased by anything at all anymore. And that's a terrifying prospect, because he's eschewed all of his idiosyncrasies as a human being.
Do you think that's mentality, or do you think he's just given up?
No, I think
this is never going to get better.
I'd love to see some North American players fucking give up like this guy has. That'd be a start.
Yeah, well, you were going to say some Anders. Yeah.
I know, just that, if you add to that the fact that then he had to sort of like share at least some of the spotlight with Electronic and had to sort of like cede some ground and say, listen, okay, I'm going to take in this new guy. And he's actually said that, actually Electronic thinks about the game a lot like I do. And he sort of like, they don't actually seem to have any kind of real competition about like who's the best. So that like, in terms of just personal change, that's kind of incredible that he can do all these things at once and in such a short time. Yeah, I'm impressed.
I asked Simple in an interview at E-League if Electronic had become like undisputed, if it like became over the course of like 3 or 4 months, if everything turned and everyone was saying, oh, Electronic's the best player in the world. I was like, what would you do exactly? Like, would you be mad? Would you? And he was like, no, I'd get better again. And I mean, he does have like this weird, he like has this. I don't even know how to describe it, but like the amount of Counter-Strike he plays is unbelievable.
It's ridiculous.
When you watch him at events, now that they have these practice rooms in the hotels, it's like, oh, he plays his matches. They do some like practice games and everything. And then at the end of the day, he goes back and he like plays FPL and he just like, death matches and he just plays the game. And that's really, really impressive with the schedule we have, that he's still, is that a siren? That he's still actually that motivated.
Yeah, they're coming for you, Moses.
And I think and his ankle bracelet just went off.
He's wearing the tie again.
But yeah, so it looks like I think we're all unanimous on. I mean, Moses, with all the praise.
Listen, I'm not gonna fight that too much. I just wanted to give Device a shot. I think that's super impressive what he's been able to kind of establish.
Any other year, like if you take Simple out of the equation, it's probably Device by a country mile, but.
And listen, no one wants to see all 4 of us agree on every single thing, because we all know the next topic is we're all.
The next topic is we're all going to agree. So congratulations to Simple, you're the by the numbers player of the year. I'm sure you would get more mainstream recognition if you just started wearing a fursuit. So maybe you can take some of that money and get one. Just a thought. Just throwing that out there too. No, it doesn't mean anything.
Duncan, thoughts?
Let's not let.
Hashtag resist on it.
I'm hosting this show, Jason. Yeah, let's just.
You'll have so many. The amount of salon articles that'll be written about how Simple is the future of esports, like correcting toxic male patriarchy. It'll be amazing.
Yeah, I know. I might. We should chip in and just get him one. I think, like, and just send it to him, see if he wears it.
I'd do that.
Yeah, I'd be down for that. I'm sure Anders has one lying around. Well, we can borrow that. Like, anyway, team of the year. This one's almost. I can't even think of another team that would be in the equation, because obviously we all seen what Astralis has done this year. They've been the dominant team, won the most tournaments. Obviously capped off the year with the Intel Grand Slam. Our friend Sneakiest there capping that moment brilliantly with a shoehorned fuck. Which I'm all about.
My favourite expletive that he used all year long. That one was appropriate.
Yeah, that one was pretty good.
Also, technically against probably terms of services, but whatever.
Yeah. Whatever. Lovely birthday stream. So, I can't think of another team that would even come close to sort of being in the, argumentation, even if we talk the full calendar year for Astralis, in terms of their overall skill ceiling, where they're at, ridiculous. In terms of just dominance, ridiculous. In terms of, if you just look on paper at individual players that you can all admire their skill sets for, that could clearly just leave and go to any other team, ridiculous. The best coach in the form of Zonic. It's incredible. And you think back to previous dynasties that we've had, the dynastic teams, like the Brazilian lineup, the old Fnatic lineup, all the way back to NIP. I just don't think there's ever been a team this good. But I don't know if anyone disagrees with that statement. But for me, this has been the pinnacle of CSGO. So clear winners.
I think the most telling thing about Astralis to me was that in the first few months when they were really dominant, people were like using normal arguments like, oh, well, I personally think, when FaZe gets Olofmeister back, maybe they'll be the best. Or, obviously Brazilian fans were like, well, let's see when, Stewie works his way in the lineup, maybe we'll get back on track. Like, these were all the angles people were using, which is the normal way you would just, downplay a team that you don't think is a true number one. After you got past the midway part of the year, People literally had to go into the most convoluted reasons as to why Astralis isn't the best team I've ever heard. Stuff like it's one thing to say, oh, well, this rival of theirs doesn't have the right lineup. No. People were just saying, oh yeah, the only reason Astralis is on top is because the entire rest of the top pro level teams don't have the right lineup at the moment. It's like, well, fucking hell, what are the odds of that? Well, just the entire scene has to make exactly the roster move you want. Otherwise, this result doesn't count somehow. Like, as though you couldn't just go in history and look at every other winning team. I'm pretty sure all the teams that come third in that list would be like, oh, I would have liked a different player as well. It's such garbage argumentation that by the end, really, people were just beaten down, and everyone, I think, pretty much has to acknowledge now. It's clearly the best team this year. That's not even debatable, but now the real conversation is, as you say, is it the best team ever? And you've got a pretty good sort of stake to that claim, I think, whether or not you go down that side or not.
Yeah, and I'm so sick and tired of the fucking people that go, oh, it's just boring, isn't it, when one team wins every event? Like, I mean, I don't know who
I love it when it's
people are.
fans saying shit like that as well.
Yeah,
Just like,
yeah,
are you for real? Are you for real?
Yeah, it's like, listen, the interest becomes the story of who is going to depose them, because we know it's going to happen. There's never been a sports team in the history of sports ever that's just won everything ever for forever. It just doesn't work like that. There's always, people's form dips, teams get better, people crack the Enigma code. So yeah, I think it's really weird to sort of see so many fans kind of like play down Astralis' achievements just because they're tired of them winning matches and it's not their team,
And I don't even think they play a boring style of Counter-Strike. I think they're a lot of fun with the way they change a lot of things up, whether it's device in a different position, whether it's an aggressive play on the CT side to take over some part of map control, whether it's some kind of divisive move on the T side on offense. I think they're a very exciting team to watch. And I think people, for some reason, I see people towards the end of this year saying that Astralis has just been so dominant in all these wins. And it's true in terms of like their win-loss records, but they've had to come back and grind out some of these maps that they've had. Like if you remember Fnatic back at IEM Chicago, when they had to come back against them, and they've made some of these comebacks actually work. And that's the impressive thing. And if you want to talk about them the team of the year, for me, the reason why I would put them there is you could even throw out all the tournaments they won and all the different MVPs that some of their different players have of all these events. Just look at the way that this is a team that is raising the entire scene of Counter-Strike, much the way that like the Brazilians did at one point. But they're basically telling every other organization and every other team that's just like, listen, if you guys don't take this seriously, if you guys don't become professional at every aspect of being a team and being an organization, you're never going to beat us in terms of preparing for games, in terms of preparing individually and as a team, in terms of looking and innovating new things. Like this team is going to be on top. And if other teams and other players don't step up and meet that level, then Astralis is going to be there for a while. So in that sense, I think they've just jumped the bar up for the top echelon of Counter-Strike and just said, you better meet us here or else this is just going to keep happening.
Final thoughts on this?
Well, just to pile on some more recognition, I guess. Yeah, exactly. That's actually the reason I showed up at all. There's some stuff that people don't see, maybe outside of the game and outside of the the stuff that happens on social media, which is all of the let's say sort of branding preparation that they have to do in the context of something like Astralis, the brand itself, but also some of the Blast Pro stuff, which is. That takes a lot of time if you're a player, and I think most professional players, they're going to skip that. If their manager calls them and says, "Hey, we've got like a signing session, or we want you to show up at a local mall and do some stuff with the kids, and we want you to actually participate and actually help to sort of raise the overall level here." And it's expected that you do this because guess what? You're professional players. This is what it means to be a professional. You have to participate in these things so that the overall value of what we're doing can actually increase. Well, they're doing all of that while being the best team in the world. And I know that all of those side activities is definitely something that I think it's shocked the Astralis players how much that has actually taken. And it obviously takes some focus away from the game, but that's sort of what you had to do. So there's like a cost on that side too, that's sometimes a little bit hidden from people that they don't see. And I think that the only reason they've agreed to do that and have still sort of, been the best is I think it is that total mindset change that's happened inside of the team that says, actually, we are professionals and we're going to treat this as a very serious and very professional career. And I really think that's what everyone else has to pick up on at some point and has to start doing.
Go on. Well, this is the one that's gonna fucking really start some arguments, I think, among us, which I'm looking forward to. It's the worst event of 2018. Now, listen, I'm just going to start
He
offering...
means tournament, obviously, by the way, guys, not like thing to happen, presumably.
Yeah. Worst tournament, I should say. Worst tournament, not worst event, because obviously that would be Anders wearing that fucking tie. But look, so I'm going to start with the London Major, right? Now,
the London one, you say? The Face It one, you mean? I prefer to call it the Face It Major.
That's a very good point, Duncan. You're absolutely right. You're right. Let's call it the Face It Major. And I'm going to explain why.
London did nothing wrong.
Definitely did nothing wrong. Unlimited eggs. Anyway, we'll get into that.
I didn't see this coming. I did not see that at all.
Right. Well, no. Listen.
Didn't even watch the Major. He was fucking there working it.
Let me tell you, right, and I'll explain why. So obviously, there's been events like we just had one, the PLG event, which was a disaster. The stream didn't occur. I think we've had some other.
I love the way PGL managed to cop some flack from that, from dyslexic cats, just going like, "Why have you got another shit?" That's like, guys, how hard is this?
Yeah, that was pretty unacceptable. But like when you think about majors in terms of the expectation that you have to what was actually delivered, for me, I can't really think of a bigger disparity just in terms of the hype to end up having, tech problems, stream down, schedule changes, then you move through, you get, some of the features, like all the hype that we have around, you think about some of the Valve features that we've had about players, and then you compare it to, and now Parlor. It's like, oh God, it's just too much.
But good news, guys. Through complicated international negotiations overnight, we have managed to secure a removal of the limitation on egg-based materials for the following day, as if that was like a real thing that happened.
The fact that players' food was being rationed at the event. Like, I mean, and then obviously, of course, you factor in.
What even is that? What is this? Literally the wartime Britain? Like, can I have 2 eggs?
Brexit hit Britain like a fucking ton of bricks. Like, no eggs, 2 eggs per man. We're running out. So all of that ridiculousness. And just as I said, sort of, even silly little things like, the talent that was involved, it didn't include some names, you would immediately associate with, and the fact that there's a chick in there making a higher day rate than some of the talent. From start to finish, it was just so poorly handled for me, and I've never been really disappointed by a major before. I mean, I remember even when you go back and you think of the first major we had at DreamHack Winter. Sure, I mean, obviously the production value was a lot less, but just in terms of the excitement you had around the event, it actually over-delivered, I think, what people's expectations were. So it's very hard to think of a worse major, and because it is a major, that's unacceptable to me.
I always thought EMS1 Katowice 2014 was pretty shit. I just couldn't get into the event. I don't know what it was. Something about the branding, the vibe, location. I think was the main sticking point of Mavro. So
yeah. So that's my thoughts. What do you guys got? Because obviously you're on the freelance circuit used to. Well, you 3 actually. So you go to more events than me. You get a little behind the scenes look at some of them.
Anders, you want to take this one away, dog?
Yeah, throwing you right in there. I don't know. It's obviously hard.
Oh, he's gonna pussy out, isn't he?
Yeah, I know.
No.
Listen, man.
Of all the companies as well, like, it's Face It, dude. Like, Anders, how many ECS events have you worked for me?
None of them.
Zero. Just 0 of the ECS. It's the biggest league that they run, right? Okay, well, go ahead and defend them, please.
Listen, I wasn't gonna.
You absolute fucking you business cock. You are a business cock. You're just like, oh, what's that, Face It? Yeah, keep fucking my wife. Oh, there you go. I'll put a blanket over you. Why are you doing that? Like, that's so unreasonable, isn't it? Like, these people have just ruined you. Oh, we're asking some reasonable critique on a talk show.
Listen. We're supposed to say which is.
I apologize for the thing about your wife. You actually do have a wife. That was meant to be hypothetical. Not to be interpreted literally.
I think
it's just a metaphor. Just a metaphor.
Yeah, I may even made the mistake of introducing you to her. I think so.
But I'm not. I'm fucking Face It, am I? So you can trust me around.
Oh God.
All right, go on, Anders. Finish your thought.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say, I think I could probably beat the Face It one. I think I had a much worse time, and this was forgotten because it was in the wrong time zone. So maybe the rest of the world didn't even notice it was happening. But I was at WESG in China, and there may have been like an egg ration going on in London,
right.
but I didn't get any food to eat at all for a week, and
What? Sorry.
we had to change the hotel that we showed up at the event. Like the first night that we showed up, it turns out the hotel didn't even know we were coming. There was like, I don't know, water running down the walls. The whole place was moldy. So we had to leave to a different hotel, which I stayed in for all of one night. I called the reception, tried to ask a question, and they didn't even speak English. So I just booked my own hotel somewhere else and said, I'm out. I'm going to want somewhere better to stay. So I went there instead. But it turned out I couldn't actually go anywhere from that hotel because none of the ATM worked with any cards. So you couldn't get any money. So you couldn't take any taxis. So it was pure misery for a whole week in China somewhere, and I thought that was very weird.
I'll give him credit there, Richard. He has literally actually ignored the opportunity to dunk on people who might not even get another major ever and have fucked him over for the last 3 years. Instead, he's pivoted to the incredibly bold but unnecessarily brave move of dunking on a tournament that did hire him to work there, paid him an insane rate, and a country that you need a fucking visa to get back in the next time. He's going to have to apply for. So if you see this episode, it's done for you, Anders. It's over. WSG, that sailed, hasn't it?
I said it before. I was talking about this on another show over that fucking Dota stuff. And I was just like, I mean, I've got no interest in going to China. Fuck that. Like, just straight up, I'll sit here and bang on fucking China all day long. And
well, listen, I did another.
Beijing's pretty cool. Shanghai's not bad. These are pretty cool
Shanghai's
places.
great. That was fine, but yeah. Listen,
I was gonna say WSG as well, just because the
did
pictures
you work it?
No, but just
he got all the messages from me all on the way.
I was
Right.
his therapist. I was, every day, you're gonna get through this. Just get some rice in you. You can't have a pizza. I'm sorry. But no, I mean, just the pictures from people who would show, like, any event where you show up at the hotel after like 30 hours of travel to China, and then there's literally like the pictures had like wooden beams bracing the ceiling as it was collapsing inside the hotel. Players were saying they saw like a rat in the restaurant. The water was coming out.
You was there. That's
and that was just the starter.
But any event where literally,
what was you doing in China?
Jeez.
Anyway, keep going.
Just any time where you literally, the players just like aren't even safe in the hotel, I think just automatically gets catapulted to the top over.
So DreamHack Montreal last year. Too soon.
I'm not touching any. It's not that I don't. I'm not touching any of that shit.
Nah, don't bother. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, wait till we get to worst fans of the year.
No, I'm going to the bathroom. I'm going to the bathroom.
You have to understand. That was all a big misunderstanding. He's reflected upon that. He's taken his time to carefully apologise to me in English that he could never write in, expressing ideas that would never occur to him in his brain. So all seems kosher.
Duncan, your event.
Oh dear God.
See, I guess
and
the
hold
problem
that
here
thought, 'cause
is...
I think I've got an alarm that's about to go off, but talk. I can hear you from over there.
Is this the straight fire alarm?
Does he have an alarm for his alarm?
I know. Why does he say that? There's an alarm about to go. My pre-alarm's going off, telling me that I only have 5 minutes until the re-alarm.
I set an alarm for when the show was supposed to end, but I got it wrong by an hour anyway, so it's going to go off in like a minute. Sorry, do continue.
I can see why Anders picks WSG for that one, and also, to be fair, because it had so many surprise results. Anytime I hear a tournament has loads of problems with the like logistics and like basic things, and then there's loads of upset results, that either means like there was also problems tech-wise, or players just stopped giving a fuck at an event like that, which does happen. Even if the prize money's insane like that, it does happen when enough things go wrong. People in the back of their head go like, well, if we lose this, we can just say there was all these problems, and anyway, it's sort of like a get out of jail free one. So the problem is, though, I didn't go to that event. So aside from pictures like Jason's mentioned, I saw some of the photos. Looked pretty bad. The thing is, I would argue the Face It Major from the angle of it was the major, dude. And also, like, they've already run events in the UK before. Like, they've had the ECS tournament that was in London at Wembley.
Dude, they did one in fucking Cancun without a single delay, a single flaw. Like,
so I mean, like, it's not even that, like, I don't mean every single element of it either is the big problem, but like there was so many sort of basic things that they managed to fuck up, whether their own fault or not. I'm sorry, whether it was really your fault, it doesn't matter. Like, people just remember the event, and the event itself was just wasn't memorable. I mean, I can't blame them for the playoffs. That was nothing to do with them, but that just was like the ultimate cherry on the top of the shit cake, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, pretty much. I'm trying to think of anything else that could be in there.
It wouldn't even be comparable.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I remember when we talked about the first day of the Blast, their first event, where they had to cancel the whole first day. But I mean, sure, that shit happens. It wouldn't make a worse event for me. And yeah, like I say, just a prevailing sense of disappointment. I mean, we were doing obviously like the No Majors Club. We were sat there kind of watching the games, and like I just think about how much airtime that we filled just talking about problems that were ongoing. Like, I was getting messages from players at the major going like, I cannot believe this is a major. Like, I can't. It doesn't feel like any other major I've played in.
I think the problem, because I hear that. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna name anyone, but I hear that from players at every single major, and I think part of the problem is that the tier 1 events that aren't majors have stepped up their game so much that I'm assuming, I would imagine there's a feeling among players that like, what's the difference between an ESL 1 Cologne and a major? Because ESL does an amazing job of making that environment hype, the build up to it. I'm sure Katowice is going to be the same this time, which is a major. But what is actually differentiating? What is changing the feeling in the atmosphere?
You could even argue, Moses, especially with like ESL is a great example, because obviously they've got that amazing format they use for the ESL ones and IEMs now, which everyone loves. It's so sturdy as like a format. Well, the problem is, since their format's better than major now, I agree with you. Like, at this point in time, it's only the fact that ESL Cologne doesn't have the official stamp of being a major that stops it being the best event of the year or something. Like, it's the only thing that's holding it back.
Well, we can then segue into our best event, and we will officially give it to the Face It Major. Oh, it's tied. It's a tie, actually, isn't it? 2-2.
So. By the way, Richard means for the worst event there. I don't want a clip to be made from Twitch that says the best event. Of course, we have to give it to the Face It Major, and then Face It just cuts that off. Puts it in their sponsor deck.
I'll timestamp it. I'll timestamp it. So
in the sponsor deck, along with a page of scratchings from their big talent star that they had at the last fucking. Anyway, keep going.
Yeah, and just a picture of some eggs. So look, let's give a joint award. It does happen some years. So for the Face It Major and is stuck in a hotel starving to death, which is the real reason.
When you phrase it like that, I kind of feel like that's the best event of the year.
Yeah, it's the dream, right?
Yeah,
it's done him a lot of good. Positive, intermittent fasting for a week
at
a time. Yeah, AKA.
It's like Anders always says. He has that old adage that he always brings out in it. Like, all I ask every day is, a roof over my head, 3 square meals, and €5,000 in an unmarked Swiss account at the end of business. It's weird. It's not as catchy at the end as what do you think?
Yeah. So let's talk about the best event. The good thing is there's genuinely lots to talk about here, going right back to the year started with the Boston Major, which had lots of great moments. I think I'm probably leaning towards Cologne, which just had a great atmosphere, great matches, some insane best of threes, really nice sort of storylines coming out about it. And I think ESL Cologne does remain like just one of those events you genuinely get excited for when it's on the calendar and it's coming. But as I said, I think this is a much harder one to call than probably any other award on the list, because everybody has stepped up their game in terms of production value, getting the right talent. I mean, face it, notwithstanding, getting the right talent, making sure they have the right teams, filling stadiums. We're starting to do that with more frequency without us having to fudge the numbers and basically just lie and say, we filled this stadium, but 2 stands were closed off, and you didn't even sell the capacity anyway. We've moved out of that, and I think this year's been great for Counter-Strike just in that sense. So I'm very open to to this award. I got a few thoughts of my own, but
in that case, I think what we should do for this one is this should be one where we kind of like figure out who the candidates are, and then we'll pick each, which we think the winning event. Because on one like this, I agree with you. There's so many events.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to make my choice and then find out that like one of them is going to reference an event I missed and I didn't think,
So obviously,
who did you
I'll
vote for?
put Boston and Cologne into the mix.
Sure.
What are the others?
I was gonna. I mean, those were my like top two, and then I had Sydney in there just to mention because Sydney always has an amazing atmosphere. Had an amazing grand finals as well. No problem.
The shoey ban was upsetting though.
The shoey ban was very upsetting, but there was a moment during that tournament where a kid started doing. Not a kid, but like a guy in the crowd started doing a shoey, and the security guard came down the stairs to take him away and just started like holding him by one arm and dragging him out of the chairs. And the crowd started booing, so he turned around and did the shoey and just finished it off as he's getting dragged away by security. It just erupted.
If that was America, they'd have just tased him to the ground instantly. It'd be like that "Don't Tase Me, Bro" video from about 10 years ago.
But
Anderson knows what I'm talking about.
I know it's like that atmosphere in Sydney is so unique as a tournament because they're obviously all watching the Counter-Strike and being engaged. Remember that was the event with Nifty 50 as well, which was sweet. But the atmosphere is such a party with the Australians that it's just a fun event to work at. It's one of those ones that you get really excited to work.
Anders, this is where you get to submit one of the Blast events.
Yeah, I was just weighing the pros and cons because obviously I'm going to be accused of cockholdery again. So
pros, they pay me a lot, and one of the events was in Denmark. Cons, people will think I've sold out all my integrity. No cons, right? Well, so here we go.
I'm wearing a glittery tie, Duncan. I feel like it's all over in that department. No, I mean I've definitely had a ton of fun doing those events, but I'm even having trouble just remembering the beginning of the year. I don't know if I should see someone about that.
It's all that kratom. You gotta
it's all the stuff.
There's got to be at least 5 or 6 things that are above your year-long memory.
Yeah.
No, really. No. I mean, I had a really. I think the arena itself in like never mind the event, but just the physical location of Blast in the Royal Arena is really really cool, and like the building itself is super good for it, and the fact that we can sort of sell it out every time, I think makes a big difference. So. Yeah, I've had an enormous amount of fun there, and obviously definitely at the Boston Major as well. So
people talking about Katowice in the chat, saying we should mention that. I didn't think that
wasn't a bad event.
I just reel of it. Yeah. So about this Katowice event, Duncan.
There's no reason it would be one of the best ones, is there? Yeah. I will say this: one event we haven't referenced that I would put in the mix was the first Star Series of the year.
I was gonna.
The one where, if you remember, it was the one where like Na'Vi almost won it, and then Zeus had like 5 kills, and then finally did something and didn't fuck off out of the game. Continued playing, so they lost the final. But that was the one where Electronic hadn't yet been like shifted to more star roles, and it was literally just simple, like hard carry the whole fucking tournament. And it's not just the storyline that made it a great event. If you go and actually look at the lineup this event had, it was stacked as fuck. I'm not joking. Like literally the top 15 teams in the world. I guess it can't be 15 because it was probably 16 at the event. Like at least the top 10 or 12 were there. It was really stacked. And it also had like the first one that had best of 3 in the Swiss system. So, I don't think it was the best format, but it was certainly a better format than past years. If you think of some of the wonky formats we've had in Counter-Strike, had basically all the good teams in the world. And if you look at the playoffs and and again, it's hard to count like the games, but they do make up part of the experience. The games were amazing. And there were a lot of really, like the parity at this event was insane because before Astralis took off and became #1, etc. This is one that was like wide open. So I thought that just for like a lot of storylines, etc. was pretty fucking sick.
What about New York, Duncan? Was that any good?
New York was good, but the problem is it had no Astralis. So the best case scenario was Mouse or Team Liquid or someone wins, and then it's like, oh, cool, can't wait till the next fight. So even though I'd agree with you, the event was good, it kind of lost out on that extra one. And when we're picking like the best event, it should probably be all of it combined. I feel like we are picking the best. I agree, it could be in the mix for it. Certainly a very good venue.
Yeah, it's a real hard one because, even thinking about it now, even though I think I'm leaning towards Cologne, I think about kind of the memories I have of the Boston Major. It was kind of like one of my last events with E-League. But not only that, just in terms of the storyline, we got like a lot of people to this day, like, because obviously you got some fucking, drooling idiots in the Counter-Strike fan base. There's still people out there who have like unironically sent me emails saying that it was all a fix, it was rigged, and it's all part of this ongoing conspiracy to make money off Counter-Strike, but all the players cheat, all the games aren't real. It was an agreement we had with Cloud9, and all of, but like when you think about how insane that story is,
Yeah.
It is like a Mighty Ducks, sort of
because they were 0-2 in the original system. Well,
yeah, they went 0-2 in the original Swiss. I remember when we did the By the Numbers, me and Duncan, and we were talking about dark horses for that major. And we were like, I suppose Cloud9, and we'd really downplayed it, but they were like, not a bad pick if you really wanted to pick an outsider. And then I think when we saw they started the tournament, we were like, well, that was fucking really dumb. The idea that they then power through, win the whole fucking event, do it by beating FaZe, which it was their major to win. Just
and
a
they
mad
was the
story.
nemesis to that Cloud9 lineup, just thrashing them every time they played them. So it's like, everything combined. Like that's the maddest part. That really would be like a movie or an anime or something like that, because it's the idea that you lost to the final boss for you like 3 times in a row or something. You never even came close to beating him, and then the time you beat him is not only to win a major, which is ridiculous for an NA team, but to deny the FaZe players the major. Like, remember, still only Olaf in FaZe Clans ever won a major. Like, that was literally one of those slam dunk events that was like, right, well, when you get to this final of like FaZe versus Cloud9, right, cool, everyone just get ready. So we're going to say like, congratulations to Guardian, and then Carrigan gets his major finally, and Nico, so young in his career, he's already going to have a major. And then it's like, what's that? Tarek and Stu2K won the major, right? All right, then. It's like, that whole narrative just got derailed completely, didn't they? And even the context, remember that people forget this. Like, even though I made this tweet recently, yes, that final was definitely overrated because people forget there was a map 2, the Overpass game, that was just garbage. That was a really bad map. But what people forget is map 1 was where Cloud9 was leading most of the game, Mirage, and then lost 16-14. So if anything, the idea then you come back in the series, win on their map and the decider map is even more ridiculous. Like, the actual movie storyline is an amazing storyline.
Yeah, I mean, and I remember how much it meant. Sorry to cut you off, Anders, just to add this as well. I remember how much it meant to a lot of like NA guys. Me and Moses were sat up on the desk. Jason got a little manly tear in his eye.
Stewie just turned to them all, said, "Guys, I love you guys. I want to play with you for at least 4 more lands, and then I'm out of here and fuck the rest of them."
And then Scoots as well. It was a big deal for North American esports to win a big event on home soil, especially with the unlikeliest of winners. It was,
that had to have been the most fun to just sit at a desk in that crowd for like 45 minutes through like an 8-round comeback from Cloud9 into like 3 overtimes. That was unreal to be out there. For me, I think it's really hard to decide between Boston and Cologne. I think one of the reasons that Boston goes above is obviously the NA angle. The other one that I would pick Boston over Cologne is I really like, and I think this was the first time it was done with like great success in my opinion, was where the stage is in the center of the arena and the crowd goes around it, because I know PGL did that in Krakow and it was super cool when the Polish team was playing, but I felt like in an A, and maybe it just helps that Cloud9 went that deep all the way to the grand finals. I thought that environment with the stage set up like that was executed perfectly.
Anders, you were going to say something before I cut you off earlier.
Well, it's not going to be funny anymore, but I was just going to say that...
do the fucking joke!
Why did you let him cut you off? Then you just say, "No, Richard, I've got to say something," and then you say something awkward.
It was all prophesized by, Moses calling it the Tarek era as well. And
I do remember that. So for people that don't know, Anders, because he's mentally ill, he came into E-League and just said, "I'm just going to start saying on the broadcast that Jason has started calling this the Tarek era," right? And he just slipped that into every broadcast. And Jason was going, "Yeah, but I didn't say that, did I?" And he's going, "Yes, that's why it's funny, Moses." And he just started saying it all the time. And lo and behold, somehow Tarek did actually win the fucking major.
I said after the major, and then I said, "Yep, I did say that."
Yeah, and then that was some wild shit, like. But yeah, so I don't know. I mean, like, obviously I'm a little bit biased. I didn't work Cologne. I'm probably never going to do a CS event again, as I've said, unless like my company do one.
Richard.
It's true. So that was like me going out on a high. So I've got like I feel like I shouldn't be able to say Boston because I am massively biased towards it. So I'll go with Cologne just to remove bias from the equation for me.
The thing is, though, I do have, maybe people can jump in on this. I do have one issue with this particular topic, which is like, okay, the Face It one made it pretty simple for us because obviously no one's including that. It's the best event of the year, which had so many problems. So really, there's only one major in the year that we're considering. And the real question is, does the fact that it's a major mean that it sort of like overcomes all qualities of the other events? Because like the discussion like we were having with Moses there, like if you take away which event's a major, I mean, Cologne was clearly better than Face It for a start off, and then it's up there with Boston. Yeah. So then you have to like look at the other factors. So should it count? Because I have to say, I generally probably do usually count the fact it's a major. Like it's not like by default it makes it the best event, but like you'd have to really outperform it. It's like an MVP award, It probably does go to whoever wins the event. And if you're on the losing team, you better be really insane, So how do you guys weigh it up in terms of like, does it automatically kind of get a nod because it's a major?
I try and take that out. I think it always does factor, especially once you start, like Richard went through the whole storyline aspect of it. I think that's the tough part is the storylines kind of crush it when it's a major. But Cologne itself is like, Cologne 2015 is like one of my happiest memories in all of esports in my entire career so far. So every ESL Cologne event always gets a leg up on all the others, no matter what as well. Like Cologne's always going to be a major for me. I don't care if it's officially designated by Valve. In my mind, Cologne counts as a major.
Anders, final thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of tricky. Like, I mean, obviously, I wasn't in Cologne, but I was in Boston, so probably it's going to be hard for me to separate, that experience from it. But yeah, sure. I mean, the fact that it's a major does help quite a bit in terms of just the the storylines and all the rest of it. Yeah, I'd probably go for Boston if it was me. But yeah, Cologne probably the other.
Why was that though? Because isn't Germany like it's like a very brief trip from Denmark to Germany? So why didn't you go? Didn't feel like it? Were you busy that week or what? What was going on?
Listen, I was very busy, Duncan, as you know. Had a lot of Swiss bank accounts set up that week.
Right,
good Lord. So Duncan,
problem is I was gonna go, guys, but actually inflation went up on the euro that month, so we couldn't work out a deal.
So Duncan, looks like you might be getting the deciding vote here.
That's a tough one. I'll say we edge it to the Boston major then. Like, I do think Cologne was a very good event, but like, a major, there is something that feels more important, and they did it right at the League Boston major. So I'll edge it to Boston and say it can win then. I think generally, like I said before, you also do get an unfair advantage that if the games are sick, and obviously that final, in fact, actually, there was a bunch of games on the side of the bracket that Cloud9 was on. There was like the SK Fnatic series, then there was the SK Cloud9 series, then there was the Cloud9 Fit. Those were all amazing series.
Yeah.
So if you add in how good some of the games were, I think the Boston Major can win this one.
So does that make it a tie then? Because Jason, you went for Cologne. I've gone for Cologne.
I'm going Boston.
Oh, okay. So Boston, there it is. All the way back to January. The Boston Major by E-League wins our event of the year, our tournament.
Maybe they'll put this clip up on like a TBS commercial of you giving him a Gonzo award.
I actually got messaged by them. Apparently, they're going to be doing like a year in review. So I'm going to be in some of the clips, obviously. So I'm gonna check that out and see how that is, because like it wasn't like an acrimonious split or anything. It was just,
I think it would be funnier if it had been an acrimonious split and they just actually like edited you out and had like Rob Reiner or something do all your parts.
Well, you could argue they did the ultimate insult by kind of like they did very quick move on. Like I will say that, right? It was like when you've been in one of those relationships and you break up and you think, oh god, it's gonna take a while to get out. They were straight fucking machine immediately. Like they didn't give a fuck. So.
But the thing is, though, Richard, to be fair, they were worried about his social media following. So
yeah, true.
Do you think
they've been burned by that once?
Do you think like the last 3 months you were there at E-League, they were thinking about Machine the whole time?
Quite possibly. I mean, because you have to remember, my opening gambit when I took the job was like, you should move me off camera and have me in the production room and put Machine on camera. Like, I did say that, despite all of the differences I've had with Alex. Like, I think he's good at what he does, and there's a lot of potential there. And with the right guidance from like TV producers and directors, he could become a very polished host. We've seen it, for example, like with Golden Boy. Golden Boy is now hosting actual TV shows. Yeah, like there's a lot of talent in esports that could transition into traditional media, and I definitely include Alex among them. But yeah, for me, it kind of just felt like just a little bit that it was like they just moved on just a little bit too quickly. You know,
I'll give you a week or anything. No tribute, nothing.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I don't want a Richard Lewis greatest hits clip montage on the next show, but some form of acknowledgement would have been nice.
Could you at least make a statue of Richard outside studios in Atlanta? Not least because in about 5 years, I'm looking forward to the obvious protest to get the statue taken down for obvious reasons.
Listen, I'm just upset I wasn't nominated at all because I was
like host of the year.
Host of the year. So should have called me, obviously.
You know, and like I was a pretty good sport. I did a lot of stuff, you know, like when they dressed me up as fucking Heihachi from Tekken. You know, I never pushed back.
I'm interested in it all.
Mate, remember when they photoshopped Duncan's face onto like a lingerie model?
Oh, I do remember Duncan not liking it.
It was from the Rocky Horror Show.
Yeah, it was Dr. Frankenfurter. That was classic banter.
So good.
Classic.
Another movie that couldn't be made today, of course.
Yeah, sure.
No chance.
Let me see if I can find this picture. Actually, I think someone sent it to me today. You can just bring it up while we move on to the next award. Is it there? Fuck, you know, my mentions are a fucking mess today. Whatever, fuck, it's not even that good. Right, we'll just move on.
Good.
Right. So, best newcomer to the scene. Now, this can be anybody in any area. It can be a player, commentator. So this is a very broad award. Yeah, this is what I mean. This is a tough one. So when we're talking about newcomers, you know, we literally mean somebody that either is literally new to the scene or somebody that had like their breakout in 2018 and sort of became firmly cemented in the public eye. Very tough for me. I'm probably going to say, and you can say that this doesn't count or whatever. My gut feeling was to give this to Scrawny, and the reason for that is I think the Scrawny and Launders commentary duo is like really taken off this year. I think they firmly established themselves as a very good duo, very competent, very entertaining to listen to. Clearly should be doing more events than they do, and it, you know, shakes a little bit of competition up at the top, which is always great. And yeah, I mean, like I have my doubts about this guy because like Jason's laughing. Yeah, okay. Where you going with it?
Sam just forgot to crop out just Happy's chins. It was just in the middle of the stream.
Brilliant.
That was entirely on purpose.
Love that. So he would definitely get a nod from me, especially because I had my doubts about him when he came in because he seemed a bit like a fucking attention whore. I hate that shit when people are like, you know, constantly like, oh, look at me, praise me, like he's constantly making like fucking Reddit threads like, oh, what do you think of me today, guys? I hate all that shit. And that's how he kind of got his breakthrough. But like in terms of raw talent, it shows that you can't really judge people by that metric because he's a very, very good caster. He's you know, certainly had a great year as well, and I think he'll have an even better 2019. So I would nominate him. Anyone else for anything else?
Yeah, no, that's I actually, just to follow up on that, because I didn't really know. I always try and reserve a bit of judgment until I actually meet people, and I think that one of the problems that most people are going to have breaking into the talent scene, especially if they're really young, is that one, they're going to be in a room with a bunch of people that have done, you know, 100 events or more, and they're going to be talking for a lot of the time about like that one event that they've done, and it's going to be like listening to a tape on repeat, you know. So that's going to be you know, really obnoxious and annoying after a while. And you know, not to shit on all the young kids watching, but sometimes, you know, most of us who are a little bit older, it could be a little bit, you know, boring listening to someone who's, you know, in their early 20s talking about problems that don't really maybe seem like problems. I mean, I don't going to sound really old, but and actually from talking to both Launders and Scrawny, I've got to say that isn't a problem for me at all. Like I've been in a bunch of hotel rooms with them, and we've had all kinds of conversations about, you know, stuff way outside of, well, shut up, man. Way outside of
what a weird angle he took there.
I've been in lots of hotel rooms with them, and seriously, they can after I've come, they really hold the conversation down.
And people think they're selfish, Richard, but they tell you what, they suck dick like champs. They don't even ask for anything in return, just not to be blacklisted from the industry, which I graciously.
Anders Weinstein Bloom.
Listen, somebody in the chat was saying I look like.
You may leave now. He's flicking his arm at that salt bear cunt.
Is this what I'm here for?
Finish your thoughts. Sorry,
Yeah.
Anders.
Keep going.
Yeah, so no, I'm just saying that there's like a character side of being, on camera that's important, and I think they've got that too. So that's awesome. Another person I've been really impressed with this year has actually been Adam Savage as a stage host. I think it's one of the most demanding jobs you can have, and when you're out there, you don't even have anyone that you can play off of. So if there's any delay, if production's in your ear saying, "Oh, by the way, you've got to talk for another 20 seconds," you just have to come up with something. You can't even throw it to somebody else and have like a conversation. So you just have to roll with it. And Adam isn't someone who's native to Counter-Strike. He just sort of came in here and started doing it with Blast, and I think it's been amazing. So. Probably, between Londos and Scrawny and Adam, for me, I think those three have been doing a really amazing job.
Yeah. Anyone else?
Yeah, I mean, I had, and you guys can tell me that this one doesn't necessarily count, I guess, in a way. I was gonna say, I had in my head when I kind of looked over this one before the show, I was gonna say Blast, because in my brain that first event almost like didn't even really, I know it was last year, so that's why like you could say you don't want it to count, but I think these three events that they nailed at the end of this year like cemented themselves as a pretty solid tournament organizer. Questions about their format, sure, but after that first event being such a disaster, to have nailed the last three events they did in a short period of time in different countries in the world, and then announce that they have 8 or 9 events next year coming, I think that those three events, like as a quote unquote newcomer, really solidified their position.
Duncan, do you have anybody? Any players maybe?
I've got a few. Like for a player, I think the obvious one is Sergey from ENCE, because this is a guy where
as a player.
Like, he was playing the year before, but he wasn't relevant in any way. Like the guy was the MVP
it was
of
Harvu or whatever it was called.
Yeah, this guy actually did some really legit stuff this year. Yes, it's not on the level of like the greatest players. Like he's not a contender for Player of the Year, but we have so few like even vaguely true rookies in Counter-Strike that I think that's pretty insane. What he went from at the beginning of the year to what he is at the end of the year. I think as a player, that's a pretty good one. In terms of talent or someone else like that.
Scoots had a good one throughout Potter on the analyst desk.
Get the fuck out of my face. Anyway, ignoring that absolute nonsense from you, Scoots, and fucking anyone else involved with Blast Pro Series. Literally a bottom 5 analyst of the year. Are you fucking shitting me right now? What are you talking about? It's absolute nonsense. Anyway,
I thought she was good. I thought she's great.
Yeah, well, opinions differ. Right, anyway, so I would probably say, like, I think actually Freya did a pretty good job. I think Freya, I would have said Frankie, because I thought she was actually very good when she was at Star Series.
Yeah,
but I did find that article from earlier this year where she did imply I'm not welcome in esports. So I'm going to change my pick to Freya, who's also a very good woman out of the UK who's doing very professional work, but she's respectful to her elders in the industry who sort of built this motherfucking show that you're now trying to get on. Cat on a hot tin roof. Don't know what that even means, but whatever. Reference to corrugated iron.
Yeah, there it is. The corrugated tin.
All come full circle.
Right.
Speaking of coming in a full circle, like Anders in a formation hotel. No, anyway, and the other person, let me think. I would also say, if we're putting in talent, I'll also go ahead and give a shout out to one of my biased people. So I'll say Max Millet as a journalist, because actually the amount of articles. The difference is,
I knew it would break down. We've been doing so well for an hour and a half.
Listen, let me ask one question, right? If Moses is joking there, that was banter, that's fine. But let's be real. Max Millet, as an actual writer in Counter-Strike, about 1,000 times better at his job than Potter as an analyst in CSGO.
That's why it's called a newcomer award.
Yeah,
but why give it to some old ass person who won a fucking world championship in female Counter-Strike about 12 years ago, you daft cunt. That's all she did. No events with you this year. Oh, listen, give her you're like the cunts who gave Obama that fucking peace prize, aren't you? Absolute rat. Get out. Get him out now. Get him out this call.
Listen, Duncan, you spent all your time shitting on my pick when instead you didn't say anything good about your pick. That's not a winning argument, you piece of shit.
Right. I was about to, and you just went, nah. And then as well as I actually made an argument, you just went, nah, Brad. Nah. Let's sort of mad fucking guy living at the ends in London.
Let's turn this green room into a white room. All right.
Always has to be that colour, doesn't it?
Right. So we've got a bunch of nominations there, but we must decide.
I'd have to put my vote for Christine Potter, whatever her name is, because she did those 2 small Blast events. Stunning Jason was a woman, and apparently that's all it takes to be the fucking best of all time or some shit. I don't fucking know. Get me elevated.
You really lost the plot of that one at the end, didn't
Don't
you?
even care. Didn't even care about the ending.
Jesus Christ.
Right. Well, I believe Duncan has persuaded me towards Sergey, not his other stuff he was saying, but certainly towards Sergey. I think I could get on board with that. I think Ents had a great year, and he was an instrumental part in the team, and he was playing on a no-name team kind of last year. So yeah, just a sort of great journey for him, and a legitimate 16-year-old actual player that's worth your attention, unlike some of these bullshit artists that are out there, gaining a big following despite being habitual liars. So I'm on board with Sergey.
And he's been legit from day
Oh,
one.
people are now throwing Zero in the mix, but I kind of feel like he was already
Come on,
established.
mate. He's played one LAN with a real team.
Yeah, no, but I mean, people were hyping him up the year before as well.
He also
But
just
I suppose,
hasn't done enough this year, I don't think. You know?
yeah, I also suppose, yeah, his nomination is fair. I don't think I could be swayed over Sergey, so I'm going to go with Sergey, even though I presented Scrawny to the team.
I had Sergey if you guys shot down my other one, so that's fine with me. I'm fine going with Sergey.
Okay.
Like I like picking the other people, like the journalists and the talent, just to give them a shout out. You know, like
Yeah.
it's not a field as we've referenced where for players there's many people even fit the criteria. But I think it's probably going to be a player who wins, right? It probably should be Sergey.
Yeah, no one in NRG. Just
Oh, that's right. Yeah, come to think of it, Cirque should probably be up there, right?
I thought about that, but he joined the team and he played in LANs with them last year. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you could say the same about me saying Blast. So I don't know. Whatever you want. I still think Sergey. I would put him there.
Anders.
Yeah, Sergey, and then it would also be easy for Ents if we did that.
Yeah. Shout out Natsu.
Yeah, I was giving you an opportunity to trigger Duncan again, but it's all right. We've been sensible. The beast.
No,
is
well,
tame.
I can already tell you, Richard. I know what happened now. These two,
I
they
did
think
it.
they're smart.
here
They
we
think
go.
they're smart, right? They're not. They're so transparent. So think about the way this episode's gone so far. Andy's
fun.
in it. Literally, famously built into his persona the joke of like, well, I obviously am biased towards Danish people. Doesn't even reference Device as the best player of the year. Lets Moses do all his dirty work for him. Then we come to this section. He doesn't even pick. He picks, to be fair, he picked someone from Blast. Moses picked Blast itself as the entire newcomer. Obviously, Anders just has, like, he's just fucking remote controlling Moses to do all his dirty work for him. So Anders is like the fucking mafioso, just sits back with his hands clean, like, what do you mean? I didn't do anything. It's like, get the fucking Rico act in here right now. Get both these guns out.
Right. Well, this is so we'll give it to Sergey. Congratulations, brother. The sneakiest move.
Now,
The
is this
sneakiest move award.
is this sneaky like a rat or sneaky like a ninja? We take a positive or negative spin on
I
it.
mean, I think last year, or the last time we did these awards, because I don't even think we did these awards last year, but the last time we did it, I think, didn't we just give it to D-Man or something for no
We
reason?
changed it. It went from like something like I can't remember what the original title of the award is, but at the end of it, explaining why D-Man had won it, we changed the title of the award to Sneakiest Cunt of the Year, and that was
that was it. It was
CS:GO.
cunt. We did change it to cunt, and I think the reason for that was I seem to remember there was a story where he kind of like inserted himself into a final.
Yes.
Never knew that.
What's weird is he doesn't put
which
his
is a bit
award that
sneaky.
he's won on his bio on Twitter. On his
I know.
you don't
I mean,
win many awards anymore, dude. Just
Ungrateful.
not. They're all worth
Yeah,
it.
no. Well, compared to streaming, Football Manager to 20 people, it's quite an accolade, isn't it? So, but anyway, funny how things work out. So it can be anything. I mean, if you've got a sort of good sneaky move in mind, Jason, they're all valid. They're all valid. I would probably nominate. I mean, Stanislaw is got to come into the equation. He was definitely a sneaky motherfucker in 2018. I like the guy, but sort of the way he kind of was like, yeah, all smiles, all hugs in Optic, and then pieced the fuck out to go to Liquid, and then kind of got fucked over, ironically, because he tried to make the power play that a lot of IGLs do, and that didn't work out for him. I mean, the way that was all manufactured definitely was done clandestine, plus the twit longer, which is like, here is the objective truth by me, a person with a vested interest in telling you lies. Pretty ridiculous. So I would nominate him to a certain degree. I'm trying to think of anything among talent.
Kirby was pretty sneaky.
Well, was that last year? Was that
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 was-
was,
that was
the
2018.
beginning of this year. It was after the major, remember?
Stanislaw was last year. I let
Yeah.
you
Oh,
go.
my bad. Sorry. Thanks. You
No,
should
I
have
let
fucking
I let you
corrected me.
go with it.
But what was it? Was it the end of 2017?
No, Moses
No,
is
it's-
wrst on this one. Stanislaw
Am
was
I?
at the beginning of this year as well. Yeah, I think it was like in April or something, like in March or April that he left Optic.
Not when he went to Liquid.
Right. First, you're thinking of years before. We're talking about this year when he left Optic and went to Complexity.
Yeah, Richard said Liquid.
Yeah, I was honestly thinking about the
Oh,
liquid
right.
one.
But that was years ago, mate. That was in
Listen,
fucking.
Duncan,
It's been a long year, mate.
Duncan, why don't you trust me? Why don't what is this?
Because I
Yeah, so
assumed
that was
he should set up his
2017.
own
All right
premise
then. All right.
strategy.
All right. Well, I can't nominate him now for being a double sneako bastard
know.
for something he did last year, can I?
I
I'll just
think
have to let that one slide. We'll just edit that out and it never happened.
Yeah, I think the Kirby
And
one.
that Kearley guy trying to use cheats this year was unacceptable. He was correctly banned.
Yeah, now flush it. Yeah. So in that case, I can't even nominate him because nothing sneaky about his move to Complexity. I don't think. So yeah, Kirby, was it that sneaky?
I mean, he
Did leave on the
team,
day they were supposed to sign.
Yeah, it was like the day. Yeah, it was. He was
Forsaken,
supposed to
a
go in
lot.
and sign his contract, and then he just dipped.
Forsaken.
Forsaken's got to be in it just for that one thing I always reference. Not even cheating. The cheating alone wasn't enough. Like it's pretty ballsy to try and cheat. It's the part where he's banged to rights court. The admin's seen him, and the admin's saying, like, "Excuse me, could I look at that PC?" And he just like slaps the admin's hand away, like, "No, not now, thanks. I'm in the middle of something." Like, how's that ever going to work? Like,
Mate.
as long as you're going to go, "What
Let me
about
just press these random keys. Yeah, you can touch it.
What blows my mind about the Forsaken thing is how he went to this like practice, this like boot camp, and he was offered the chance to play on like all high tech gear, and he said, "No, I could never adapt to that," and he played on a fucking laptop, and it's still nobody thought like. You know, he's banging people out on a fucking
And every
laptop.
time someone walked around to watch him when they were dead, he was doing that thing like when your mum walks in when you got you're fucking jacking off over Hollyoaks and you're like, all right, what are you doing? Just about to come see you. What are you doing? He's like doing that shit, wasn't he?
Yo, so there we go. It turns out sneakiest move of 2018 is Duncan masturbating in his house.
Fuck, come see you.
You never get me. You never get me.
Exactly, you never will, mate. I've got fucking angles. I've got fucking mirrors. You'll never find my shit, son.
It's got
The only
lasers
person who
detecting
sees
the
me
stairs.
from is me looking in the reflection of my own screen when the sunlight hits it.
So I mean, Forsaken is a pretty obvious one.
What about ironically sneaky? Was that Clara thing this year, or that chick who like streamed?
That was this year, I
herself
think,
cheating?
wasn't it?
Yeah,
That had
that
been
was
the
this
most
year.
ridiculous thing in the world.
Yeah, trying to palm off cheating as somebody has installed cheats on your housemate just randomly installed cheats on your PC when you weren't looking.
I tell you
but
what, even though people are going to get triggered, Rich, you've got to at least put him in the category. Doc has to be in there. Think about how many things he tried to get away with this year. I'm not talking about cheating when I say that. I mean like all the other shit of repeatedly lying, going back on his own things he'd said, making a big community for Raw, never letting the fucking shit die. That was all pretty sneaky considering the guy only just played his first real LAN.
Yeah. I mean, definitely, because it's just a series of lies. And I've talked about it a lot as well. Like so many associates of his, people he's played with, people he knows, all cheats, like getting banged out now. We had some YouTuber get fucking vac banned on all of his accounts as well.
That's good stuff.
Yeah, and it's like, yeah, it's the story still doesn't add up to me. But you know, it's like we've definitely had it in the past before where there's been Counter-Strike players who were really fucking dubious and definitely got up to some stuff. And then they've gone to LAN, played decidedly average or slightly above average, and everyone goes, see, they're legit. It's like you drop 50 online in your fucking bedroom, you drop 20 on LAN, and the community will just say, "Oh, he was legit all along." So yeah, I mean that's another possibility. I mean, it doesn't actually beat Forsaken in my mind. I mean, like actually installing cheats on the PC.
Forsaken's a good one. Yeah.
I've got one for you.
Go on.
Sneakiest move of the year. You got to put up the way that Fnatic was able to kick Golden after they won those events.
Ooh,
it's the way, you know, I
good
always reference this, that they didn't just kick him, because if you kicked him, everyone would go, what the fuck? What, you're replacing him for him? And they were like, oh, wait, if we put an extra step in there, Golden has been moved to entry fragger, literally the like worst player on your team. Then he tries to entry frag for one event, terrible, obviously. Well, you're not really cutting it as an entry fragger, so we're gonna have to replace you. It's like the sort of one step abstraction they put in there was Perfect. Well done.
Yeah.
I wonder how
also
many,
lying to people that buying Draken was worth it. That was an incredibly sneaky move. They almost got away with it, but then they pulled off the mask. It fucking exists all along, wasn't it? Irony
Anders,
is,
Jason,
exists
anything to throw
didn't
in
even try to veto that move. Shit pig van again.
I don't think I can top Forsaken. I just
Well,
I
don't
think-
try it. That'd be murder.
sneaking,
Shit, John, keep going. I should just grow the fuck
similar
up,
back to
really.
Counter Strike.
Oh, all right.
Sneaking similar back into a Counter Strike event.
I was curious about that because like he must have some fucking god tier contract with Blizzard because I know when other people have sort of intimated they want to do other games or dip their toe in multiple waters, so to speak. Blizzard haven't liked that at all.
As
So
far
I was
as I
very
know,
surprised to see Semler come back for
the
that.
very few big name people who have the Overwatch League contract have this clause in where they're allowed, in theory, to do some other things. Even then, though, like Blizzard has to agree to it. As far as I know, like you can't just literally tell them because obviously then you can't leave an open line like, yeah, I'm just doing the international or whatever. Like, it's got to be something that they sign off on as well. As far as
And I know, like one of the refresh guys tweeted out after that it took a couple months for them to go through the process of getting them cleared to do that through Blizzard. So there's that.
and that's not just because they're only used to working a day and a half at a time a week.
and just one final mention.
Whatever.
Just go
Everyone's
over that.
getting it now. I keep
Yeah,
going.
yeah. Just one final mention. I gotta say as well that fucking fishiest dude when he did that fucking stupid announcement at
That was
big
pretty good.
announcement coming. Please follow me on Twitter because I'm juiced in and have all the inside information and utter garbage announcement.
What
just
about-
compounding the disappointment of an already disappointing major?
Richard,
that kid.
at the risk of sounding like a sycophant asking a loaded question, wouldn't Nicholas Nyholm recommending to E-League to fire you from the esports industry count as a sneaky cunt move?
I'm trying to think when that was though. Was that like
That was
they
last
can't-
year.
Yeah,
Last year.
that was 2017.
Oh, fair
so
enough,
he's
then.
up there with Stanislaw, unfortunately, and so sneaky we remember it in 2018, but not actually qualifying.
I'll give you mine. Are you ready?
Go on. Yeah, I'm
So I
ready.
already wrote a whole article on it. Sneakiest move of the year has to be Stewie 2K winning a major in North America, signing a new contract for many years with a salary making him the highest paid player in North America, and then immediately leaving 4 lands later to a rival team, not even from North America, forcing your way out, fucking the entire franchise as a result, to the extent that they are now a literal meme. And when they get invited to events, it's worse than Virtus Pro getting invited last year. And now everything's fucked to the extent that when you then get kicked out of the team that you left Cloud9 for, who's the team you go to? What's that? Your direct rival. You literally may as well just send fucking Jack a bag of your shit and tell him, chow on this, homie, because that's what you did. That's you. And then after all that, having the gall to be like, really, Jack, abandoned is the word you'd use for me, homie? Like, child, please. At this point in time, this is like if your dad really did come back 19 years later, like, what, you've been saying I abandoned you? I really was getting some sinks for 19 years. Like, are you don't shitter for fuck's sake.
So Duncan's going with
Yeah.
Stewie.
I like Forsaken.
I'll go with Forsaken as well. I think. Anders.
Yeah, Forsaken for me.
Right.
That's a safe
Sorry,
choice.
Duncan. It's a compelling argument, but I'm still hoping my dad is coming back with them cigarettes. Like, you know what I mean? So I can't allow it. So look, I know, and I'm conscious of time, so I'm going to try and pick up the pace a little bit here. Worst roster move of 2018. This is I mean, there's lots of fucking.
In light of what I just said, to make this not stupid, there must be one caveat, which is it has to be a roster move. I think that like someone did to their team, as in, I'll give you an example. Mouse Sports chose to bring Snacks to their team.
Yeah.
Cloud9 loses Stewie 2K is not Cloud9's fault. They didn't want to do that.
No,
So, like,
sure.
You can't do that one. You know, I think you should go the other way. Like, it should be like you did the bad move. So, what would you guys even recommend? I'll give you one there. I think Snacks to Mouse Sports are probably going to be one.
I mean, the just to add to that, the Snacks to Mouse Sports one really fucking stands out because of the sheer amount of money that it was reported to have cost, which was, what was it, like $325,000?
I think it was 290
or
Was it not
290. I mean, which is just ridiculous.
Listen, it's got to be. It has to be something to do with G2 and trying to make that roster work for as long as humanly possible.
I mean, Smith's coming back is mind blowing, isn't it? Really, like, but
I
I can do the Flash. Get me.
I was on board with Existence coming back and giving him a shot, but after a certain amount of
That
time,
won't fly on this show. I've learned the hard way. You can't say anything bad about Existence round Dudley.
No, he said he was on board with it.
yeah, I was on board with it. Yeah.
Making Existence our player of 2018.
But
No,
it was the fact that there was 7 people in the world after a couple months who thought that G2 experiment was eventually going to turn the corner and work, and it was the players, the coach, and apparently Ocelot. And everyone else was just like, there needs to be the fact that they didn't make a roster change might have been the worst roster move of all time, or this year.
And I guess we can talk a little bit about MIBR. Are they in the mix? You know, they brought into high-profile NA players. It just didn't work out. Would you say it's a bad roster move?
I wouldn't personally.
Come on, man. Like, listen, here's the thing. The Tarek one, I don't blame them for, because that was sort of like sunken cost fallacy. It's like, unless we're going to kick Stewie 2K, we've got to try and get someone that works with him. But actually getting Stewie, I think, was clearly a bad roster move, because it took a core that was god tier for 2 years and made them like not even making playoffs at events and coming like 9th place and losing to fucking teams at the time.
Must have been expensive as well, but I've never seen any numbers about it.
Sure. Oh, there's another reason why as well. Incredibly expensive. I've said this before. Like, that move was an example of where you've just like reached a little bit too far, because the real move, I'll give you the best analogy, is like, so, you know, if you go shopping for something and you really have your mind set on one specific thing, but it's not there, right? If there's something else really good, you might go, you know what, I'll get this instead. But sometimes there's not that either. And whatever's left, you sort of like, do I even really want anything actually if there's not what I wanted here? But sometimes you think to yourself, well, I'm already in the shop anyway. I need some. So you just get it. That's getting Stewie 2K to MIBR, because the reason they got him is Simple said no, fucking Nico said no. It's like they just went down the list of all the shop said no, Glaive said no. Like all the players they really
reminds me of when like EG ended up with Lurpus, right? Like, and they went through that process.
Same scenario. Yeah.
Shout out to a nice, decent wrecking of Lurpus for no reason.
No, I mean, MIBR, isn't he? Fucking mistake himself years later.
Just mentioning it.
I think, I just think that they had enough top 4 and enough good placings and enough good, like they were able to challenge Astralis as well. I think that
like 2 events at the end of the year.
I just don't think that would be in line for one of like in the top of 2018. You know, I think you could even go to Optic picking up that Danish roster and some of the changes that they made. Like there's some pretty egregious things in there.
And I'll throw one in because it's for regular viewers of the show, so they'll appreciate it. Lobanjica to Imperial was fucking hilariously misguided. The Imperial with this like young upcoming team, you know, they were doing all right at DreamHack events. You wonder if they can take it to the next level. I know what we'll do. We'll bring in an absolute moron with a dubious Twitter past to come in and sort of be like the encourager, if that's a word, of the team. He's like the guy who just goes, yes, good play. You know, like that was his entire role within the team. And we said, and this triggered him insanely, he's got like some hate fantasy about me. There's a recording on the internet where I talked to him on Discord, and he's saying like he wants to meet me in Spain to have a fist fight with me, right? And I'm like, I'll just get right on that fucking transatlantic flight. You fucking cave troll motherfucker. What's wrong with your brain?
To be fair, though, at least he isn't like, come see me. He's like, I'll meet you halfway. Something like that.
I said, well, why don't you come to America? You know, like, and he was like, no, we must. He was in his brain. The idea of us meeting halfway did sort of like work, I guess.
I keep pulling for.
Celebrity boxing.
One. Listen, I keep pulling for Loba to get pulled up on stage at a Kendrick Lamar concert.
What are you going to say, Jay?
I'm just remembering, who's that, Anders? You had that random guy who said if you land in Romania, he was going to stab you at the airport or something like that. You still went to Romania because you're.
I did. Yeah, he said he'd meet me in the airport and put me in a pine box.
To be fair, it doesn't necessarily mean a coffin, does it?
Yeah, exactly. Why are you reading into the euphemism? Everything's supposed to be interpreted literally right now. Didn't you say kill you? She's going to put you into a pine box and go, right, there we go. I'll poke some holes in, transport you. There you go. Your location safe and sound. Out of the pine box you come. Enjoy your life. Why are you going to read into it, Anders? Why so suspicious? Just open up and believe in humanity.
People
Listen,
are spamming 100 Thieves. 100 Thieves was 2017 when they picked them up, right? 'Cause Didn't they pick?
Is it-
Didn't it?
Is it
Didn't they
too
pick
soon
them
to
up?
nominate Carrigan? We're getting benched on phase, and
Well, we haven't seen.
we don't know yet, right? But
Yeah, we don't know if it is going to be a better move. I mean, I will say, I think the idea of Nico just fucking usurping him in the middle of a tournament is outrageous. Like, just come in, yeah, you're the in-game leader, and Nico just comes and goes, yeah, you're not doing that anymore, mate. I'm going to do it. Like, that's pretty
All I'm going to
wild,
say is this: don't ever get involved in a gangbang with Nico.
No, I surely won't.
Owen's advice for kids.
I certainly won't.
oh my god!
That was
all
overly
right.
specific example. Yeah,
Yeah,
Can
it was.
I nominate?
Yeah.
What about North? Taking
Yeah.
Kiebu. Now, I because that inadvertently made Astralis the best team in the world. So I'm just saying that. In
Ooh,
terms
going
of
at it
battle-
from the back door, eh, Anders?
Yeah, with the reverse analysis. Like that was
Can
Reverse the
I,
sequence.
are you guys all starved of sex or something? Like, what's going on here? Like, why are we all just talking about fucking all of this shit? What's wrong with you all?
And obviously Nico
Fucking hell.
explains all
Can
that.
you guys rub one out before you come on my podcast? You know, like, you know what I mean? Just like, yeah, and this is doing the back door, yeah. Fucking hell.
Duncan masturbating in his.
Yeah, I know, yeah. I've got mirrors, I've got angles.
Oh no.
Looking at myself, like, all right, but this is weird. But yeah, no, I think that's an interesting point because they inadvertently created their own nemesis with that move while thinking simultaneously, they were kind of, like North thought they were having the better of it, right? So
Yeah.
I suppose that might be a qualifier.
Yeah, what would be worst roster move of the year? There's not that many that really stand out. Like, I think there's Snacks to Mouse one's not bad. Even then, it's not that terrible. They did win a yes on New York. Like, I don't think overall it was worth it, but it's not like the worst move, is it? So I can't really put it up there.
So I don't know. I mean,
There's
might be inclined to go
definitely
for-
like two really bad ones that we're missing. But what are you gonna do? The chat saying Envy, that Envy roster that was just picked up.
But
I
why
mean,
would that be a
they
bad
only
move,
picked
though?
up that team to get the slot. So
Yeah,
that's-
that was perfectly reasonable.
I mean, there is a late contender. Cloud9 are like, yeah, we're just going to trial out Infinite. And then it's like, wait a minute. What? Let me just have a look at Infinite's history. It's like fucking 50 people. Yeah, he just racially abused me at a LAN.
What about the FNS sequence?
Yeah, I mean, because I'm trying to figure out when that all happened.
oh,
right?
wait, no.
was the-
Earlier, when
was
Stewie left was when they recruited FNS, and obviously they
For
kicked
two
him out of like 2
Oh,
lands.
yeah.
Yeah,
That was
might
fucking
be one-
insane. I mean, I wouldn't call that a bad roster move. I'd just call that treating your in-game leader like shit. That was like you didn't give FNS any time there. He literally had, was it 8 weeks?
Obviously, Nico now is just like, why didn't I get the same consideration?
Yeah, why not? Fuck that guy. Don't get in a gangbang with him. So look, let's pick one.
Don't even
who's
think
gonna
about
be-
it, kids. Not even once.
Not even
Gangbangs with
once.
Nico, not even once. Someone get a picture of him when he's just like lost that Boston Major, like just put like gangbangs with me, not even once.
Definitely do that. That meme's got legs, I'm sure. So, right, let's pick one. Come, we got 4 more awards to do.
Stico.
Who's it going to be? Oh, yeah, removal is because you got to factor in. You're right. When you buy Snatch, you also remove Stico. So it's like 2 bad roster moves rolled into one, and it costs you 300 grand to do it. I'm on board with I'm on board with Snacks. Congratulations, Snacks. What was that thing he said about the
You gotta
cat hating you or something?
Gotta congratulate Mouse Sports as well.
Yeah,
He
you're
said
right.
that his cat knows more about CS than me or something.
That was-
I even, except he didn't even realize, as usual, they all do this, Richard. They're all good with the first line, but my specialty is the comeback. So immediately I wrecked him by saying, yeah, well, maybe you should have learned from him how to handle a mouse, which is who beat them in the very same tournament that he said it. So
Pretty good, not bad.
over.
Yeah,
Ironically, he then went to Mouse and ruined the team. So maybe the joke's on Mouse in the end.
Yep. So congratulations to Mouse. You blew 300 grand to get a reamed out fucking Snacks on your roster and then sell him back for a fucking fraction of the price.
You
got
absolute tools.
You got double fucked. Right. Biggest NA disappointment. I'd like to nominate Moses for the... I'm just kidding.
All right. Well, what the fuck?
Come on. We just injected some energy into the podcast. It's lulled a little bit. Biggest NA disappointment. I mean, I think the obvious one has to be the dismantling of the Cloud9 roster,
It's
which
gonna
is
be
precipitated by Stewie.
the complete like lack of trying to defend or build upon your success in any way. And that's been the hallmark. That was the disappointment when Optic did it after winning season 2 of E-League, and then they blew up like 3 months later. So
Moses, that's the biggest thing. Like, forget them making the shit right up at the end. Yeah. On its surface, the biggest tragedy of this year in this sense is that they didn't even at least try to defend it in the next major. Like, if you want to make moves, okay, at least when it goes shit the next, I don't blame you if you blow up them. But that's why the Optic analogy is a good one, because it's like, you didn't even give it a try. You just cut it way too soon. And obviously, that was like catching lightning in a bottle. You've got a team that's won a fucking major from NA. Why are you going to split that up?
Yeah. I mean, that's the easy one for me. I mean, it's incredible to think that like, how much of a disappointment do you have to be to eclipse the fact that like Liquid lost like 8 finals to Astralis this year? Think about that.
Yeah. I mean, those are both good shouts. I mean, I think like what you have to remember is, though, it's like you wouldn't say, for example, I don't know, pick a fucking tennis player that played in the Federer era, and you never win a tournament because every time you got to beat Federer. You wouldn't say they had a disappointing year if they made it to every final. You wouldn't call them a disappointment.
Yeah.
Although it is slightly disappointing that Team Liquid couldn't get across the finish line. I think they've been great ambassadors for NA in terms of the Counter-Strike they're playing, the moves that they've made. They've got a great roster, and once again, by bringing Stewie in, they're showing that ambition that and spending the money that they are going to get it right. And I've always said that about Team Liquid. Haven't always got along with upper tier management in the organization. Certainly, they've got a history of treating journalists like absolute garbage and lying publicly about certain things. But I would definitely say the one thing, their commitment to spending and excellence is unparalleled of any Counter-Strike team. In fact, at this point, they must, if you go back through all the various iterations, they've got to be the biggest spenders in Counter-Strike, in CSGO history at least. No doubt about it.
Yeah, they've done so many fucking buyouts. We're talking big time numbers, and then how much they paid their coaches. They were way ahead of the game on some of that shit. So here's the one thing. I agree with you. I don't think you can say Liquid making tons of finals is a disappointment. Like, that's no one in NA has ever done it like they have. I will say this though: the one thing Liquid did really disappoint me with was that New York final. Like that tournament. Like, they had that
was the one they had to win.
Yeah, like the trophy was practically being put up on the and then they fucked the whole thing up. Like, that one was a legit disappointment because
I suppose we can just pick that out as an individual instance, and I think it's definitely up there with the sort of the collapse of Cloud9, because you lost to the Snacks Mouse Sports at that event. You lost to the worst version of Mouse Sports, not the one that was winning tournaments and top 3, I think they even made it as high as 2 in the HLTV rankings at one point. You didn't lose to that team. You lost to the team with Snacks that was clearly dysfunctional. So that's also a good shout. I still think the Cloud9 collapse, which is all tied to, I mean, biggest NA disappointment, Skadoodle, like, gets fucking... You finally think he's cracked it. Like, holy shit, look at that performance in that final, gets the MVP, they win a major... And then it's like, look what happens after that. He's back to playing decidedly average, doesn't retire. And, he played a big part by his steadfast refusal to go at the right time in contributing to the collapse of C9. So Skadoodle also gets a special mention.
Yeah, in the Skadoodle part, I almost feel bad because, I mean, he said he wanted to retire, and he probably just should have at that point. But he did feel a loyalty to his teammates to stay and play probably well.
Which is pretty rare around those parts.
But not only that. I mean, that was the one time they didn't want loyalty. They were all going, great news,
they were going, it's such a shame that you have to leave. And he goes, well, if you put it like that, maybe I could stick around. But is that best for you though?
Yeah, we wouldn't want to deprive you of your big retirement. No, actually, guys, you've taught me right. Fucking hell. That's why you don't have gangbangs with Nico.
Jack's walking out back, throwing away the cake and everything. Jesus.
No matter what happens in life, if you can't think of something to say, just use that as the closer. Just say that. Just say that's why you don't have gangbangs with Nico.
So where are we going? Is it C9 or
C9?
Yeah,
it's gotta be C9.
Cloud9.
Not even putting up a fight to defend the crown.
Yeah, are we on board with that, Anders?
Yeah. I'm good with it. I'm not going to say anything else.
All right.
Nope, that's fine.
Yep. Okay, so there you go. Biggest NA disappointment.
Wait a minute. I'm not even memeing right now. Don't
Okay,
we at
go on.
least, listen, you did this to me. I didn't do this. I was keeping this as players, teams, games, purely inside the game.
Here we
If
go.
technically this category is called biggest North American, I think you can see where I'm going here, North American disappointment, and we can include for the other category of best breakthrough newcomer talent, I believe there was a North American who disappointed many of us briefly on a certain stream the day before.
I tried to get us through this.
Has to at least be a contender, right?
Oh,
I'm not hating. I'm just saying that's rules.
It was certainly disappointing, and I think I think the biggest disappointment of all is that he disappointed the most important person to disappoint himself.
Exactly. He disappointed everyone and himself.
Yeah,
And Jaden.
so
I mean, I'm sure Skadoon thought what he did was fine. Do K thinks what he did is fine? Collectively and objectively, Sado wins.
I'm not giving it to Sado. I'm going to stick with my Cloud9 vote, by the way.
Obviously, yeah, keep going.
Yeah. So it is Cloud9. Okay, right, guys. Great. Glad we shoehorned that in for no reason except to sow dissent and bad blood.
Wait, I got one more.
Oh God. Okay, go on then.
Would you put Caribbean up there if he wants to leave Astralis to be the star player on North?
No, this was NA though.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
NA.
you're right.
Yeah.
I do. Yep.
See,
Sorry, Caribbean. I think you're great. I think you're phenomenal. North is excellent. Yep.
I've just stuck the boot into Kievi for no reason, mate. He's a fucking fighter as well. He'll be looking to bang you out at the next fucking LAN, which is why you don't have gangbangs with Nico. Right? Let's
It works with everything. Literally.
It's replaced another one that would definitely not say it on this fucking podcast. Maybe involving D-Man. Right. Biggest joke in
That's fine.
Moses has remembered it. Right. So, biggest joke. Anders, you've been quiet. I'm going to start with you. The biggest joke of
can't say yourself.
2018. You definitely can. You can nominate anything. This is a very wide open, subjective kind of award.
I don't know. Biggest joke 18. I don't have any really good. I don't know. Somebody else has to go. Someone get me started. I'm not.
All right.
sure.
Well, okay. So there's unlimited eggs is obviously out there. But for me, it's going to be Dead Fox's fucking Twitlonger. That shit is straight, mate. Dead Fox's fucking Twitlonger. I could put it in a rag and fucking huff it. It's that
Sam,
fucking good.
bring up that image on the screen as we talk about this now with his incredibly small face.
So
can I get a link? I don't think I read this, Dead Fox.
Oh my god. It's the one where he tries to justify being hot fucking garbage
from the Matrix
by saying, you know nothing. Without me, there is no Hellraisers, and I play in the most despicable positions, which is why you don't have gangbangs with Nico. Right? In this team, right? In this team. Right? He literally tried to justify being garbage by the fact that these things were despicable. So that's a good one.
Here's a good one.
Yeah.
Shout out again to Twitch chat.
Yeah,
Anders,
I know what you're gonna say.
Anders in the counter quiz from HLTV.
Hold on.
Yeah, that
Anders'
was
performance in the counter quiz.
Mate, you were fucking shit in that video. I just want to say that, mate. You know I love you, but what the fuck were you doing? Like, you've been around the game since the fucking start. One of the leading fucking members of talent. You couldn't answer a single fucking question.
Listen, Moses stole most of those answers from me right on the spot. Like,
just like now with the awards.
Anders, at one point they asked literally as a question to name like the biggest like loss in talent that had left the CS:GO scene, and you didn't even come up with Semler. and Anders and Moses hadn't said that, by the way. Like, that's all I'm going to say. All I'm going to say is, listen, Anders, I don't blame you personally, because a lot of people in here are memeing on you, thinking you were just shit and didn't know the answers. I understand what happened there. And all I'm going to tell you is this. Years and years ago, if you're an MMA fan, you'll know this reference. When Chuck Liddell was in the UFC, one morning he went on like Good Morning America or something, like one of those shows, and he clearly had just like had way too much of his cold medicine, and he was just like zoning out, like falling asleep. I don't know what happened. I don't know if you just had a gangbang with Nico, Anders, but whatever happened to you thoroughly exhausted all of your ability to think and speak, and you just sat there letting Moses do all the work and said, why change the habit of a lifetime?
I was
go on, Anders.
I am a big fan of letting Moses do most of my work, especially if I can take some of the credit. Now, he lost us the game, unfortunately, so I don't know why he's bringing it up, because eventually we didn't come out on top.
Your questions were about 10 times harder than everyone else's, though, I will say. Like, the pro players are getting they're getting questions like, if you buy 2 flashes and a Molotov, what is that? They only do this every day of their life. Like, fucking hell. They're asking Anders, like, who was the manager of Hellraiser in 2014? Like,
It was the frag clip. It was the fucking frag clip where they brought up how from an online game.
I know.
Come on.
Right.
I can't be blamed for that.
So I've got another 2. I'll just slip these in.
I guess it's HLTV.org, though, to be fair.
We're going to skirt past one. Yeah, we're going to skirt past one. I was going to say Vince's retirement. That definitely has to get a shout out. The shortest retirement. It was player level. It
was a good retirement, though. It was short, but, it got its job done. Rich? I know you know what I'm saying.
Right, but the
Vince
chat
is the
being
kind
wild
of
for
guy to fucking announce his retirement on day 1 of the player break and then unretire at the end of the player break. Vince is the kind of cunt to take you out to fucking TGI Fridays for a meal when he's already got a voucher saying that if he brings one person, they eat free.
Right, Vince else rise up. We love Vince, but obviously the one that we haven't. The rise of the Vincels. Obviously, the one that probably is going to win it has to be that fucking Bully Hunters garbage.
That was so good.
Yeah, that was.
Oh,
yeah, I mean, straight up Bully Hunters.
I completely forgot about that Bully Hunters thing.
So did the PR company that created it. I actually interviewed them. I called them up because I was going to write a piece about it. I just never got around to it. But it was just so insanely fucking poorly thought out from start to fucking finish. I mean. What blew my mind, Duncan, was this was the time I expected to see vintage Red Hot Duncan fucking going absolutely nuts and career ending. You didn't do any content or talk about it at all.
Didn't need to. It was so.
Yeah, true.
You didn't need to do anything.
Some thoughts about Bully Hunters from you, Anders? I'm sure this is going to be solid gold.
I thought it was wonderful. Great initiative. I really enjoyed it. Fully behind the idea. I hope they revive it. Really, I especially love the drama from the girl who was heading it up, who was leading.
Sorry, Duncan will be back. It's the 2-hour cutout. It happens on Discord.
Perfect.
Yeah, move to Discord. They said. Yeah, go on. Sorry, Anders.
No, so I especially liked how it ended up being essentially a war on her, and then that just lasted for days on end. I thought that was amazing. Yeah. There was a lot of stuff going on there. It seemed like those people didn't really know what they'd signed up for anyway, so they just sort of inadvertently became the shield of this.
But just the concept of it. Just the concept of it. You get people who are good at the game to come into the game to play against people who are good at the game that are beating people who are bad at it. That's just an online game. It's not like, you know what I mean? We need to get a Bully Hunter in. Oh, you mean it's slightly better than average player? Okay, cool. How does that stop anything? And then, like, the fact that... So here was... Yeah, I mean, then you have to get another Bully Hunter, don't you? The fucking Bully Hunter has to get a fucking chief Bully Hunter to come in and stop them getting bullied.
That's a lot of pressure.
And just the fact that as well, they tried to pass it off as real and then had to kind of sheepishly admit it was a recreation. Because you had that guy. Now, listen, I've been around online fucking abuse quite a lot, right? I have never heard anyone talk like this guy where it was like, listen, you fucking bitch, I'm gonna fight. Like, what? It was like some demented fucking, like someone who'd never been on the internet before. It was so insane.
It was good, though, where they'd done, like, unless I'm mistaken, didn't they do something bizarre? Like, edit the fucking sounds to be the wrong gun sounds when, like, the guns were fired.
They didn't even play the game. Yeah, they didn't even play Counter-Strike. They were using, like, the fucking source guns. So it wasn't even CSGO. So yeah, that definitely has to win, I think.
I mean, never mind the logic as well, is that how would you join, like, somebody's matchmaking game for, like, none of it makes any sense, right? You'd have to be playing...
None of like, I'm being bullied. Right, wait here. Do not leave this game. Like, oh, can you join the game? No, it's fucking leaving. Right, join now. It's the most ridiculous premise of all time, isn't it?
Yeah. Completely stupid.
And they didn't even catch Freakazoid.
Right. Let's move on. Bully Hunters wins that one. 3 more awards, guys. Thanks for sticking around. I know we've ran over. Best in-game leader. This one obviously goes to Nico for me. No, I'm kidding. And that's why. No, never mind.
Zeus.
Fuck off.
He dropped 30 kills to carry Na'Vi past Astralis. He also expressed his lack of respect for me, which wins him bonus points with morons on the internet. So
yeah, that is true. I'll just say this: like I've gone back and forth on this. Like historically, if you go through, like I said, oh, Zeus is a terrible in-game leader. He's terrible at managing personalities. Then he went to Gambit, and obviously Gambit win the major. And then I was like, oh, well, maybe he is good after all. What the fuck did I know? Maybe it's the players he had in LV that were letting him down. Then he left, sort of, but then there was no like long-term success. Gambit were very much flash in the pan, and then he comes back to Na'Vi. And let's be real. If you are they winning because of tactics? Like, can I still see? Have I ever seen Edward throw like a fucking competent flashbang? Have you ever seen him not die with full utility still in his inventory? You know, they haven't even figured out give Simple the fucking rifle if you've got one rifle. He is not, you know what I mean? He is not a great deep thinker. You know, whatever you might want to say about him. So sure, I think he's a future Hall of Famer, just, you know, taking his career holistically over Counter-Strike, but not a great in-game leader in CS:GO for me. And I think all the problems in Na'Vi, he's actually the root cause of a lot of them, because, you know, he clashes with players like, you know, for example, Flamey, who is a delicate little flower, and Zeus he's only got one gear, you know? So, I mean, you've got to say Glaive.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, there's no point in having the conversation. You have to say Glaive, but it's a weird award in the sense that, like, the world of an in-game leader, we always hear varying reports on which in-game leaders contribute how much and who's making the calls and who's the biggest influence to winning. It's not always the in-game leader. So I don't think you can go away from Glaive because just the dominant run, and you have to just assume that he's put a lot of work in and he made some great calls at times. But I think it's important in this one to give some shout outs to other in-game leaders. So I had two written down, both from NA, obviously. One is Daps with NRG and the job that he did bringing that team to have some very good performances early on. They fell off a little bit. He still hasn't broken through that barrier of being able to, like, be consistently a tier 1 contender, event in and event out.
Well, that's what happens when you're Ormish.
Yeah. And the disappointment of not qualifying for the face image, I'm going to barrel through that one. The other one I think is Steel with Ghost Gaming and what he's doing with that team in terms of the lineup that he has. I think the ratio of you know, danger in that team to, like, experience of the players is so off. I think he's somehow made some pretty tough, like, some pretty new players look good.
If we're gonna give shoutouts, I'm gonna give one to God B. I still think, like, as ridiculous as it sounds, I still think after all these years, if I look at, you know, teams that are just trying to improve on other people's ideas and teams that are coming up with their own ideas, I still think God B is one of the best sources for it. Like, whenever there's some new play happening, if I try and trace it, usually in the European scene, it'll come from someone like him or Glaive, or there aren't that many people that actually come up with new and creative things. So yeah, that would be my shout out.
I'll just add as well before Duncan adds existence. I'll definitely give a special mention then if we're doing that to I mean, he can't possibly win it, but I think the way Chris J has sort of adapted to that role over 2018 and
he's been great.
Yeah,
Chris has been
a really good point.
Yeah, so
technically, MSL had the best single event of any in-game leader because he was the MVP of the event. He beat Astralis in 2 best-of-3 series, and he won a major tournament. Not the major, but a major. So MSL clearly up there. I mean, you fucking can't support, like, band players and shit. So, I mean, to be fair, I'll pick someone that actually won a real tournament.
But does he beat Glaive for you?
No, obviously Glaive wins this one. I'll just say it in line with what Moses said. It's worth pointing out that in most years in any version of Counter-Strike, this would be one of the most contentious topics, actually, because normally you'd have the whole angle of, like, yeah, but maybe the guy on the 3rd best team is doing so much as an in-game leader, and he's doing, you know, like for example, in past years, people would have picked Glaive, and obviously his team wasn't number 1 last year. But I think on this one, it's just not really. I can't really see how you're going to construct an argument against Glaive.
Yeah. So congratulations to Glaive, pretty obvious one. But shout out to all the other guys.
Probably his favorite trophy of all that he's won this year.
I'm sure.
Oh, by the way, can I just say this as well? How outrageously good do you have to be individually as an in-game leader for literally a god tier player like Nico to essentially imply you're cheating in some way in the game because you're killing people he can't figure out how to kill? Like, that's got to be a fucking feather in your cap right there. That's why you don't get involved with gangbangs.
No. I was just going to say as well, he also gets the award for most collapsed lungs as well, Glaive. So it's been a good year for him.
That wasn't this year though. That was like past years, I believe.
No, but it's cumulative. I'm sure he had one somewhere in 2018. Just, you know, Just went outside.
Fucking hell.
Right.
Also,
Anyway,
the most recovery from collapse lung, mates. Also, the strongest lung.
Why is this going so unreasonable? Like, you know what, guys? Please play fabulous.breathe.mp3 at the end. So
right.
unreasonable, isn't it?
The award we've all been looking forward to. Worst fans.
Here we go.
Worst fans. Now, I will say, in the past, this award has been held by French CS
You know what's
fans.
mad, Rich? This is what's mad. People are going to forget this. People are going to forget this. This is so key, actually. But it was on by the numbers, the original season we used to do for a certain betting company.
Yeah.
And it was at the end of 2016. This was the first time I ever told you why this group of fans was the worst, which is the Brazilians. And I said, remember, because at that point in time, they'd already just had the Dream at winter result and like ESL Pro League or something. They hadn't had like the big success. I told you they would end up being the worst fans because I knew them from 1.6 and I knew them from MMA. And I told you these guys are going to be the worst. And are they going to be in the category this year?
Oh, they win it hands down.
Every year. These motherfuckers are going to put up like, we're talking like Jordan levels in MVP.
We've got to add the caveat, of course, we don't mean all fans. All right? We don't mean all of you. We mean, you know the ones we're talking about, the little vocal subsection of any fan base, the ones that make all of your normal ones look bad. That's who we're talking about in the worst fan category. But I mean, I think in terms of events in Brazil and some of the stuff we've seen, I just, forget the whole Twitter thing. I mean, I had
soldiers players.
Mate, yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, when have we ever talked about players being spat on at an event before? I still can't believe that happened. But it's just this consistent need to kind of like, again, just mired in this conspiratorial thinking that everyone's got it in for Brazilian players, Brazilian athletes, Brazilian sports stars, and that somehow every triumph is a triumph over adversity, and every defeat is some sort of, it was never us, we were just never not good enough, it was all these other mitigating circumstances. It's a very entrenched mentality. I mean, I had it with PUBG. I did a story like in fucking July about how there was this team with had like I think Colombian players on it, and they got disqualified in dubious circumstances, right? And they played for Team Secret at a qualifier, and we had recordings of the admin that had disqualified them, and they said, "Oh, we told you couldn't use Discord, even though there was no rules about that." Now in December, 2 of those players got VAC banned, and for an entire day, my mention was clogged up with, "Does this happen because we are for Brazil? You defended cheaters." It's like, listen, you fucking morons. Being disqualified for using Discord in fucking July has nothing to do with being VAC banned in December. And I just kept asking them, can you explain to me how the two are linked? And they can't, obviously, because they're not. And that is pretty much that 10% of Brazil fans in a fucking nutshell. So, yeah, for me, it's just like, you've got the award again, guys. Well done. Until you fucking thrash that 10% out of your sports scenes, this is going to keep happening.
Hold up. Can we? So the French won it last year, and that's good news because there are no more French
the Brazils
fans
won it. I'm
in
just saying
18,
in the past, like going way back. We didn't do awards last year.
He means from source, like when the French fans used to be mad.
Because they were unreal. If RPK didn't get an MVP award, you knew about it.
All right. Well, the good thing is there are no more French fans in 18, so we've made it past that problem. They've all moved on.
We certainly have.
Blood team.
I'm gonna nominate Smooya fans. For those of us in London that had to be woken up at 4 a.m. for people in the streets. Smooya.
Well, literally, they were waking you up at 4 a.m.
Oh, just in the streets, man. Just in the streets.
Well, I mean, he was in the phase room and he was going, "Fuck, what's that sound out there?" And then who goes, "Listen, fucking shut up. Focus on what you're doing, or you're out as well."
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I didn't know that. So the Smooya fans were literally waking up the talent at 4 a.m.
Not everyone, just Anders.
No, but they were just screaming in the street hours after the event was over. Even
if you're a fan and you meet Anders in real life and you remember this, just shout Smooya at him over and over again. Even though he isn't Smooya, that has no relevance.
I definitely don't.
I don't. I don't want to minimize because that the stories, the ones with space soldiers being spit on and everything like that. I know there was one from the original Brazil event in Sao Paulo. There were a couple that came out from there. Don't want to minimize those because those are atrocious and worse than anything I'm going to mention. But I do think, having worked the events in Brazil, It is an incredible atmosphere, and you're right. If it wasn't for those 10% or whatever it is of the fans,
mate, the fucking
no one would-
Thunderdome was an incredible atmosphere. Doesn't mean I think the people in the fucking crowd were awesome, though.
But
It was a post-apocalyptic
listen.
world. They were trying to kill people, Moses. For what Not dissimilar to Brazil.
my two fans that I wanted to bring up, and I mean, I guess worse is harsh, but I would say Danish and at times.
What have the Danes ever done?
Oh, I don't know, mate. At our facing event, there was some mental Astralis fans.
No. I'm fine with all that as well. I just find that when we do the blast events in Copenhagen, that crowd is it. I mean, to just fit in with the meme, it is a library outside of Astralis games. There is not a noise to be heard in the entire arena, and being spit out and shit. That's terrible.
Angle.
But with Blast doing with the 3 streams, I remember the first Blast we did in Copenhagen, full packed out arena, 13,000 people. They move Astralis to one of the smaller side streams and they put North on the main stream. No one gave a fuck. Everyone just sat there watching Astralis. And as soon as Astralis is done playing, everyone just takes a nap.
And
so for me, I'm just like, can we please have some kind of cheering, some kind of noise, some kind of vibe?
The end of the story, though. And the end of the story was the Prime Minister of Denmark came out again and actually said, you must actually apologise, North, and explain to everyone who the fuck you are.
So another nomination, I think, worth mentioning.
Yeah, and said you are not sportsmen. I just like to tell you about that.
The Space Soldiers fans that went after Golden when he used the auto sniper.
That was pretty good.
That was pretty good. That was a good one. Oh no, auto noob! I love that, man. Like when people are still getting triggered by a gun that is in the game. I'm a big fan of that. But for real, like unfortunately, for good or ill, that small percentage that we know exists. We saw it at the Olympics. We saw it in MMA. Whenever Brazil is involved in a sporting event, they fucked it up again. I kind of feel like, it's just a slam dunk because what happened to Major at that event was just, it's unforgivable. So that they win it for me. Anyone? I'm not
gonna fight it because of the extremes that come out of it.
Exactly. A lot of the other ones are like meme worthy or whatever. Like that one's just clearly unacceptable, isn't it?
Yeah. Corralho. Right. So I believe that moves us to our last but not least, the best personality in Counter-Strike. So this is tough because immediately, because I know you're all a bunch of narcissistic assholes, you're thinking of nominating yourselves. The only way
as I referred to earlier on, what'll happen is Moses will nominate Anders, and Anders
exactly.
Moses, that's weird because I was about to say you, Moses, are the best, and then I'll just say actually I think Potter's better than all of you, you shit cunts.
Right, good. Let's not go back there. For me,
Why are you getting dicks for it?
I know. I mean nothing wrong aside from events.
Let's not. So let's weigh it up. Obviously, shall we have a rule? We have to discount everybody on this podcast. Is that reasonable?
Of course. Otherwise, one of us would surely win.
Yeah, indeed.
Let's just throw out all former female World Counter-Strike champions.
That's
just to make it streamlined.
And let's dial that one down to 0. It goes. And look, I'll just start the bidding off here.
Sponge, he's wrecked himself by wrecking me.
Yeah, I know. in classic Duncan fashion. I think Sponge is a good place to start. I think in terms of how he's become a staple of pretty much every broadcast, he's a guy that can do, he's been a color commentator, does some incredible work on the desk. He's also moved towards doing, those little pre-recorded segments, which is something that's never been in his wheelhouse before. And I think, like I say, I think your broadcast is very poorer for not having Chad involved in some capacity. Just a great all-rounder, really come a long way when you consider that, it wasn't ancient history. He was still a player, and somebody that was kind of like never done this before. I think to see him go from where he is, it's been a kind of meteoric rise. So I would definitely nominate him for consideration.
I would go with I have written down actually Scoots.
Interesting. I suppose you have to say
It's just a lifetime achievement award.
Well,
No, but
it's
Wasn't that
between
event
him
this year?
I know what Moses is saying because of the creation of the player association.
I
right,
think there's
absolutely.
that
Okay.
that creation of that, but I also I fucking love following Scoots on Twitter, and just the personality that comes out in his Twitter
course.
alone. He just there's something magical about following someone who's got fuck you money, because you actually get to watch them just tell people to fuck off. And
It's the moment,
brilliant.
Moses, and it happens every few months when he gets into like a back and forth with someone. And
Oh,
because
it's so
Scoots
good.
is actually trying to be a reasonable guy and not be too like overwhelming. Like, do you know who I am? They always come at him from the angle of like, who the fuck are you in esports? And what have you ever done anywhere? Anything I've ever heard of? And it's like the second they say it, it's like my fucking kink. I just like unzip, get out the fucking baby oil. Go to town on that motherfucker like a roast ham.
He has a breaking point, and all those threats where it's reasonable up to a point, and then it's just done. And he gave me my most favorite line I've ever seen in a Twitter argument, which
What was
is,
that?
"You fucked with the wrong person at esports." I think that is a magical line, and he also did tell Richard to get the fuck out of his industry, which is
I mean, let's be real. I want the
some Hall of Fame shit from Scoots.
No. Listen, Scoots missed out by calling it Scoots After Dark. Literally, he needs his own show called Get the Fuck Out My Industry. He absolutely needs to do it now. It's too good a title to leave on the shelf. He needs to get back into regular. And the funny thing is, whenever we meet up and talk or whatever, he always brings up going, I'm glad you didn't get the fuck out my. It's pretty funny. Like it was a pivotal moment in our relationship. Like we powered through. It was all good.
Yeah.
So I think on a serious note, the work he's done in getting the Players Association up and running and fully functional, it was something I didn't think we would ever see. I literally didn't think we would ever see that. I thought it was always going to be a pipe dream or a fucking glorified Skype group.
The work he puts in isn't like the sexiest work. It's not going to get the big headlines, but I think he's pretty important to have around. And I mean, just to throw it out there, just to be nice to you guys as well. I had the journalists like you, Duncan. I had DK. I had Nell as well. The guys who cover all like the dirty news stories. The guys who are willing to talk about the controversial shit. Because I don't think people realize how lucky we are in Counter-Strike to have people that are willing to take some of those fights and have some of those discussions. Because you'll notice it when. You'll notice it when it's gone, right? Like,
mate, I'll give you
notice it when it's missing.
analogy. The analogy is the Overwatch League. Like, you know how many of the big stories that were like fucked up things Richard has broken himself, despite the fact it's not even like he makes mad money off that, and his career isn't even built around reporting on the Overwatch League. So a game like the Overwatch League, if you followed that at all, anyone in esports, that's what the scene would be like without real journalists. Like, you would just get the official story on everything. Only when things were so bad that the developer had to do something would it get changed. And by the way, within that logical context, obviously, is what happens when it's the developer that's doing the fucked up thing. Sorry, nobody's reporting it because everyone's hired to a team or doesn't get a press pass, which is happening in Overwatch. So I agree with you, Moses. I was trying to think, who would I pick for personality? Because you either go on camera and it's Chad, because who else is there that's new? He's probably just the best one. He's a great all-rounder. But I agree with you. I'd pick DK. There you go. There's someone who come into the scene. I know for a fact you don't make loads of money doing those sorts of reports. That's not a fucking like license to print money. It's a lot of work as well for some of them. And by the way, sometimes you put in your hours and someone scoops you on the story and you get basically fuck all for that. So what job is there even comparable to that? It's not like you go up and do a great job on the desk or as a fucking commentator and then they go, oh, sorry, actually, we're just not paying you for today because someone scooped you on your whole gig. It's like, what a fucked up world.
As far as I know, DK has an actual full-time job away from esports still as well.
That's why I think he's the best though, because the key thing is he doesn't have to do it just for the money. Exactly. So he can actually do it for trying to do it properly.
But who would subject themselves to that?
Hold on. Are we allowed to say what he does? For is that, I don't know if that's...
I think he's already said before, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's an engineer, right?
He's an aerospace engineer, so like he could do.
I keep asking him all the time what the fucking boiling temperature of steel is. He just won't answer.
and gone too far.
I have a dictaphone on the whole time.
That is such a straight fire joke. Like I'm fucking so proud of you for that one, mate. So good.
Bounce.
Yeah, definitely much. But yeah, I think you're right. I think anybody, I know firsthand, anyone that's willing to subject themselves to that kind of shit is
it's outrageous.
Yeah,
it's like a rewind in 2016.
No.
15 years.
Now why? Now why did Bush? So anyway, Anders, do continue. Is there anyone else that you can think of? Maybe some streamers or anyone we might be missing?
I think I would have to give a shout out to Henry. I think Henry's amazing.
Yeah.
He's a fun character to be around every single day. It's not like on stream but off stream as well. That'd probably be my pick for Henry. And I agree with Sponge. I agree with DK. Those were my other two picks. So I'll put Henry up there.
Okay, well, I guess with all of that said, time to vote on the nominations. Anders has gone for Henry as his cemented one. What about you, Jace?
And as always, it's an honor just to be nominated. I'm obviously gonna go with my own. I think it's like Scoots, or you could just lump the whole journalist kind of thing in there.
Okay, so we'll say Scoots. Duncan?
I'll go with DK. That's a pretty good shout.
Pressure.
You got to pick one of the three, or else there's no winner.
Yeah, I know. Well, fuck. I
It was a good try with Chad. It was a good try with Sponge, but
yeah, well,
Chad's your boy. You know,
Yeah,
Scoots is
yeah.
a friend of yours.
Yeah, no, this is the thing. I don't want to necessarily have to cast the fucking. I'll let Sam do it.
Just throw out Potter for some diversity.
I'm going with Sponge. So it's a 4-way draw. So
All right. Sam,
Did
you
no
got
one
to
say
pick.
Sponge before? Okay.
Oh,
Sponge,
Sponge wins. There we
Scoots,
go.
DK, and the 9/11 Commission.
Exactly.
Fucking hell.
Sorry, no, this isn't biggest joke of the year, Rich. That's
And green card revoked.
Oh.
Well, we'll have to keep it in the UK, yeah. So I'll give it a Henry.
Oh, you British boys.
Yeah,
keep
I'll
it
give
British.
All right. So
There we go.
congratulations to Henry G for winning our Personality of the Year award. Many great people nominated for that. And that's the end of the show, I guess, guys, technically. So any final thoughts? I will proffer mine. Obviously, I don't get to see you guys so much, so thanks very much for coming on and doing the show. I hope you have a great New Year's and everything. It'd be great if we could hang out some point in the future. You were all invited to my big house in Vegas to come and hang out.
I'm gonna come see you in January, Rich.
All right,
Yeah.
excellent.
I'm gonna be
I
out
just
there.
want to say that the opinions and statements uttered by other people on the broadcast, I'm not responsible for at all. First to put some legal distance between me and the rest of it. But yeah, I had a really good time. I hope I'm still hireable in 19. That'd be awesome.
I'm sure you will be. What about you, Jace?
No, I just really enjoyed this time travel back to the E-League green room. It just still gives me nightmares. It's like I crack my neck and just for some reason I'm starting.
It wasn't quite the same. There was something missing. I'm trying to think what it was, like a particular phrase that we used to
Yeah,
use.
there was one in there.
Yeah, room on fire. It was the alternate meaning of the word room on fire, right? ROF.
Yeah, there's
Mate,
something
now,
there.
friend.
Mate, just
Fred.
please, Jason, because we've talked about it on the podcast before.
I haven't done anything. Why me?
No,
what have I done?
No, listen,
What have I
you're gonna
done?
like this. You're gonna like this. You're gonna like this. Don't worry. Just explain where your mind was at the fucking Atlanta major when you had to deal with Duncan, fucking
Oh my god.
Moses prediction to the flames, with fucking Metallica. Just please, because I've never seen you break like that. That was fucking great.
Season 1 was fine because there were people in the green room with us. You got to chill. Everyone is a little bit low key. Season 2, surprisingly, I guess, all the people that were in that green room in season 1 just decided to leave. So it was just me, Richard, and Duncan on energy drinks in that room. And I just sit there quietly, just praying to God that neither of you notice me. I'm just like, please, they're talking about politics. They're talking about some kind of drama over here. Stay there. Please don't notice me. And of course, it would always come back to me at some point during the day. And it's just getting reamed out from each side for like an hour and a half. And then you got to go do a death segment and be in a good mood.
Look at little
I think some of it
fucking
was
homo
so
sitting
unacceptable
on-
as well. Like the amount of times we just did stuff to him, Rich, like not even supportive. Like, drinking that Soylent now, yeah? I'm going to put sugar in there when you're not in here. Like, the worst friends of all time.
No, but there was one bit that always stuck with me because it happened on it was on one of the Twitch days. So obviously they were like longer days, And I think Jason had misunderstood a joke that I made, but he was in a particularly bad mood that day. Probably because he'd had fucking Thorin and
I remember this.
Probably the 3 previous days I was getting fucking wrecked for 9 hours.
I know exactly what he's going to refer to here. This is so outrageous. Go ahead.
Oh, no, it wasn't that. It wasn't, but you bring that up as well.
Oh, yeah, great.
There was just this bit where I just did a throwaway joke, and I can't remember what it was, but it wasn't anything to do with Jason's weight. But obviously he was doing the Soylent. He was on a big health kick right now, and he just turned around, and obviously we're live on air and going, "Have you looked at yourself, you fat piece of shit?" Like he just missed it. There's a clip of it somewhere, mate. I was like,
he was just like, sorry.
On air, mate. On air. He just snapped like that. It was so ridiculous. Like it always stayed with me because then we would go in a break or something. It's just like, well. But yeah, you were thinking of the fucking Professor X one.
Private Moses pile.
The one I was thinking of was this. We would keep making the joke about Moses that he looks like Professor X from the X-Men. You know, like
we did do that all the time.
So obviously, every time Moses would have to, like, you know, break down a clip, we would go on, Professor X, get in the Cerebro or whatever. Moses, out of nowhere, tries to preempt our joke by saying something mad, but with no context. He just says something like, right, better get in that wheelchair then. And we're just like, excuse. He's like, better get in my wheelchair for this one. Like, fucking no.
I just remember at some point during the season, Richard just pulled me aside after like a month and a half, and he's like, "Yo, it looks like you're having like a really tough day, and you know, if you ever need like Duncan and I to take a step back or to stop, you know, just say the word, just tell me and it's done." And I was just like, "Well, fuck, this has gotten real bad. This has gotten real bad." With Richard saying, "We'll help you out," but yeah, I spent the entire Atlanta Major with headphones out of the green room. I was like, "I'm done with this shit. I'm out."
I will say this. I've often told this story before, but what's mad is, remember, right? I know Anders is here, but I have been essentially the closest you can get to like a lifelong Astralis fan. Like, as long as that team has existed, I've admired them for so long. Obviously, I'm one of the people like Anders who years before was thinking, oh, they're going to break through this time. Like MLG Columbus, we both picked them to beat Navi naively, but, you know, we picked them so many times to win. So you would think me watching them do that godlike comeback on the third map would be what my main memory is. My memory isn't even, I can't even remember the rounds. All I remember was every time there would be like a key entry, I would just look at Moses. I was watching Moses during that, and I was just seeing a man break it down. Like, you know, as like a couple of rounds, he'd be going, well, money's still okay, we can still get extra rounds. Shit, fuck, it's getting close. I don't know. And then I just remember when they had the Tech 9s, he was sort of like, yes. And then he was doing, and it's like he did that, and then as the round just broke apart, he was just like, I wasn't even dissing him either, because I was just sat there like, Jesus, I think this is hard for you, but
they're up 14-9 or 14-10 at Tech 9s, and VP managed to lose it. Oh no!
Because for everyone who doesn't remember, that the concept was Anders had done a bet that if Astralis wins the major, then he gets to pie Moses, and he made this bet before they brought Glaive to Astralis. Meanwhile, the other side of the bet was if any of the other 15 teams in the tournament win, including Virtus Pro, who was up like 13-8 or something, if they win, he gets to pie Anders. So, like, it's the most ridiculous bet to ever. By the way, Anders suggested the terms of this bet. That's how ridiculous it is.
Also, he did it before E-League. He did it in like November at IEM Oakland or some shit. So we had like, what was it, Oakland, and I think Astralis got banged out. And I was just like, I think
that was the first event that they got played. Maybe you're thinking of EPL or something. Maybe it was like ESL Pro League or something. I don't know.
Okay, so we made the bet at IEM Oakland. I know that of that year, which was 2016, the end of 2016, and then they did E-League and they got second, and then they did ECS and they won. And I was just sitting there and I'm like, fuck, like this is actually an issue. It's actually a fucking problem.
But the key thing is when they were up, first of all, they were up a map and they almost won that overpass, which remained 2-0, but Zipmix did that amazing 1v3 with 1 health. That already sort of got to you, but you're like, there's still a map left. Easily dominating the third map. They're just banging them out completely. You're thinking, right, I'm in cruise control now, aren't I? What can go wrong with this?
I was trying to think of what kind of pie.
In gangbangs with Nico.
Well, listen. just to wrap up the show, look, there's one thing I definitely want you guys to change in 2019. I am fucking so sick of because okay, but we're doing all the pie thing. Can we stop calling them cream pies? Like, please. It is so.
I've told him that so many
No,
times.
listen, it's too much, mate. It's too much. Like obviously we all know what's going on, right? But when you have to go, haha, we're gonna give Moses the imagery in my mind is unacceptable, and you're putting it there, right? And it's got to stop. It's custard pies. We know it's not custard, but start calling them custard pies, please. Stop calling them cream pies.
Listen,
And
Richard,
just go on.
don't address it as like a group thing. There's one person in this call right now that does that.
Well, no, the worst offender, if you remember, there's a certain member of the talent pool who obviously has insomnia issues and uses pornography as a way to get to sleep at
So
night.
we're not talking about Anders now.
No, we're not talking about if Mrs. Anders is watching,
Just checking, right?
right? Right? But
Just stroking my tie, love.
yeah, I don't know if you remember. There was an event where they were like, I think it was a green room or whatever, and he opened his laptop.
No, it was a shuttle on the way to the airport.
The shuttle on the way to the airport, and he opened his laptop, and immediately it just came up
so
public
unreal.
cream pie,
It was so unreal.
and it was just playing in the back of the shuttle.
You want to know the most fucked up part about that?
Go on.
He told that story on a podcast, right? And on the Reddit thread for the podcast, someone goes like, "Oh yeah, the title is this, and here's the link on Pornhub." He found it in like the first 5 minutes of the thread surviving.
Brilliant.
It was like
porn
it was just like this is the type of porn, and this is what happens at the end of the video during the climax, during the entire point you're there to see.
Mate, I'll tell you, the funniest thing in the world is fucking comments on Pornhub. By the way, I've seen that fucking I've seen.
There's a subreddit for that shit, like Pornhub.
You know my
comments, and it's
favorite
amazing.
ones though. My favorite ones are the people who don't even understand how the internet works. It's just like, haha, hey sexy girl, I want to fuck you as well. It's like she's not reading this, you moron. She's just in the video and she doesn't know what distribution.
My personal favorite was somebody had made an account of Preston Garvey from Fallout 4, and he just pops up in a load of threads where he's going, "When you finished fapping, you have to come and help this settlement." Like, it's a fucking NPC quest in the middle of fucking Pornhub. It's unreal. And this guy's got hundreds of comments. He's out there doing this all the time. So the dedication.
You know what? I'll give you one last story for this episode before we wrap it up, right? So along those lines, just to show you how degenerate most random fans in esports are, I was doing a different show, so some people will know the context, but I won't reference what it is, and you can figure it out. I was doing a different show I do on the internet that is also done live. And so in Twitch chat, I had that up in the background because I was waiting, because it's the only way I can see all the fucking cameras because I'm shit Discord it. So I was waiting until the end of the episode, right? And during this episode, there was a female guest on the episode, and I'm randomly looking, and normally I just ignore everything they say in Twitch chat, because who gives a fuck? Like them trying to come up with a good ideas, like the original cavemen trying to do fucking fire, like almost got like a spark there, not going on, is there? So I'm just randomly scanning, and I literally all of a sudden just see a line where, as you'd expect, standard like stupid sexist sort of joke, someone goes, "I'd give her anal so hard," and then I go, hey, no, you're thinking that's the punchline. I'm thinking that's pretty fucked up. And then I noticed the guy's literally a subscriber to the person whose fucking show we're doing. I go, what are your fans like? You don't even tell your own fans to suggest they'd like to perform anal sex on the female guests.
To be fair, people say that about Anders all the time.
And that's why you don't do gangbangs.
Duncan, you've got to remember that first event we did in Prague, where that poor waitress walked in.
Let's tell this story, Anders. Enough time's passed. The moratorium.
It's the career show, everyone.
It's going to be very quick.
I've got a Duncan story about a waitress from Columbus as well. What's up with that?
let's not do stories anymore. Let's just bring down the clap of hands. Scene. Let's just do it. Let's just end. Right. So anyway, guys, thanks a lot for coming on the show, man. I hope you have a fucking great new year, a great 2019. I'm hoping I see you on the fucking road. Obviously, thanks to Duncan as well for 100 episodes. He has been my loyal co-host. Well, not so fucking loyal, actually, but a co-host.
Didn't you guys have a name for your duo way back in the day when he was loyal?
It was the package, wasn't it?
Yeah, the package. That was the one.
Yeah, and that came from me being the principled
Suggestive.
one in the CS talent pool, and when ESL were
Yeah,
blacklisting him,
how'd that go? How'd that go for you? Good.
it worked all right. Got a fucking cushy TV job. I can't complain.
It's good.
But yeah, you can go.
In my defense, I never technically said also agreed with it.
No. That's what I love about it. That's what I love about it, right?
Yeah,
So I got.
technically betrayed him. Yeah.
I said like, oh hey, like as far as I'm concerned, me and Duncan are a package deal. No him, no me. And then Duncan was like, yeah, they got me all in for them bloody ESL events. Thanks for that, Rich. But we were never a package. You do know that. Right? I mean,
As he slides the knife in.
Yeah, I would
We
never
were
do.
never a
Yeah,
package.
like what's that cunt? One of the Boltons from fucking
Roose
Game
Bolton,
of Thrones. Yeah, Roose Bolton, just like him. Yes, my pretty. Duncan. No, it was just like that, mate. Just betrayals. All right, anyway, so shout out, of course, to the sponsors, rivalry.gg. Remember, you can go to rivalry.gg/RLS to qualify up to $350 of bonuses. You can also check out www.rivalry.gg/Thunderdome, and you can win up to $100,000. Go check that out. And, of course, thanks to all the patrons that keep the show ticking over. That is our $100 patrons, Botvic, Detlef Insomniac, and Jerky's Minion. Remember, if you donate $100, you do get to ask a question. We haven't answered them this show because it's special and we already ran over. We will pick them up next episode. And of course, our $50 patrons, Benakagi Assassin, Carv, Daniel Plamanov Yordanov, Ditadornov Christensen, Madsen, Manuel Stockley, Marcus Kyunpa, Nostradamus, Pete Bidstrup, Reykjavik on Steam, Roosty, Sardsawar, TC Owens, Watch Doge, and William Southern. Thanks to all the guests. Thanks to Sam, and of course, thanks to you for tuning in. Enjoy the end of 2018, and we will see you next year. Take care.